It's episode 500. Ryan and Jose reminisce about the podcast from the beginning to 500. Plus, we're joined by guests and listen to some clips from the past and messages from our listeners. This is the Clive Barker Podcast, where longtime fans, Ryan and Jose, interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. So welcome to episode 500. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over his Pinterest page and commissioning a painting of your own. For commissions, Don requires no money down, and there will be no obligation on your part. You can also head over to the Etsy shop to buy one of his books, like A Chimney Sweep's Tale, Celebrate Imagination, or The Imaginaries. Follow the link in the show notes, or click on the side banner, and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Take a look at Don's new paintings, Catfish and the experimental Untitled. So check it out. There's a link on the show notes. Let's welcome our other sponsor, Ed Martinez, and his YouTube channel. Lots of great special effects videos and Barker-related content. What's the latest from Ed? If you've seen his movie Ultra Cyborg, now you can see behind the scenes and bloopers. There's also a short, Hellraiser 2022 puzzle forums, and another short, Doug Bradley talking about Hellraiser 3 from back in the day. Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. Thanks to our listeners and friends, David Anderson, Erik Van T Holt, Daniel Elven, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, David Blair, and Matthew Batten. And also thanks to our sponsor, Don Bertram, and our new sponsor, Ed Martinez's YouTube channel. Available now for our Patreon backers. If you want to see what happened with the fight between Drovo and the 40 cultists, it's available now. All right, well, welcome. We finally made it to episode 500, which we're calling Dreams, Nightmares, and Celebrations, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's so good to be here today with you, celebrating 14 years of our podcast and episode 500. I never thought we would make it to episode 500. This is wild.
Yeah, me either.
Wow.
Usually when a podcast gets to 500 episodes, that's when they quit.
Yeah,
and
blink
I've had people writing to me and saying, like, this isn't your last episode, is it? Which is nice. It's good to hear that.
Even guests that we've had in the podcast have asked us that behind the scenes, like, okay, you guys aren't quitting, are you? It's like, no, not at the moment. So
although 500 would be a nice episode to go out on, it's going to feel kind of weird doing 501.
I don't think we have in us to do another 500, but you never know.
No. But so as we're kind of reminiscing here, I wanted to, I'll kind of tell a little bit of the story of what inspired this. Well, first of all, we're going to talk more about the forum, right? Roger Boy's forum.
Oh, yeah.
Timewinds.com/Clive Barker, which was also called the Fifth Dominion, which was also, I had talked him in at one point to getting a domain name for clivebarkerfans.com. So that lasted for a while. Yeah, and so we had all met on there. There was one day where I flew to Texas to go to Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2011. And this was my first ever convention. So it was the first time I'd ever seen the concept of paying for autographs. Right. And I had brought this huge bag full of books. And I was doing the math and getting money out of the ATM, and it's like $1,200 worth of stuff to sign. And so I got, it was Friday and I got in Clive's line before anything else. There was all these other guests too. So, the line wasn't super huge because people were there to see Robert Englund or Angus Scrimm or
Was
Roger Corman was there.
Oh, yeah.
So there were lots of really big guests there. And so I was able to get kind of close to the front of the line. And when I got up there, Clive and Mark Miller kind of looked at all of the stuff that I had and said, "Hey, you know what? Since you have so much stuff here, why don't you just wait here and sit at the table with us and until the whole line is gone for today, and then we'll do your stuff." And so I got to
Yeah.
hang out with Clive and with Mark Miller. And I know Mark Miller is sort of right now a controversial person to talk about with Clive Barker, and they had a falling out and everything, but he was super nice to me. We
Yeah.
talked about collecting Magica cards, and we arranged for trading later on, when I was going to come and visit them.
Right.
We talked about, because I had just gotten an iPad and they were brand new. And so I was kind of showing him what that was like. And talked about the fandom. We talked about Clive's health because at that time his neck was kind of crooked, like stuck like this. And he said it's because he, writes all night, and sometimes he would like end up sleeping under his desk, or and so somehow his neck got kind of stuck that way from. And
Gotcha.
and it made me start to think about, like, he does so much, and I felt like as a fan I wanted to contribute something back. So I spent a long time thinking about what kind of letter I wanted to write to him. And then I thought, well, he gets a million letters from people. And so then I thought, and I'm already doing a podcast that I'm going to have to quit because it requires two people. Like, my wife had to be a participant in this puppet video podcast I was doing, because you need one person to, you need at least two people, because like two people just
Right.
control one puppet if you want to do both arms. Plus you
Right.
got the video recording, you got somebody operating the microphone, and there were usually more than one puppet in it. So I knew that was coming to an end. And I thought, and everywhere I go, I listen to podcasts, fan podcasts, Sega and Godzilla and all kinds of stuff. And where's the Clive Barker podcast? And so that's where I came up with the name, the Clive Barker Podcast, because we were the only one. There's the
Yeah.
Hellraiser podcast, but not the Clive Barker podcast.
Right. Right. And then I'm
Yeah.
the one who kept like shortening it to Barker Cast. That's a more punchier
Well,
name.
that was, yeah, because that was our Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because if you used, I think there was a time when your Twitter handle used up some of the characters.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and so I wanted to make our Twitter handle short enough, because I knew that from my own name at Ryan_Danhauser would hog up a huge amount of the space.
That makes
And
sense.
so I wanted to short, I didn't want to call it the Clive Barker Podcast on Twitter. I wanted it to be short enough to.
And you mentioned the videos that you were doing with the puppets. That was the series for Emmett the Crab, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We,
that for a while that was also sort of a secret identity that I had, where, because I was a realtor, and if I wanted to make political comments, Emmett the Crab would do it,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
or
I hear you.
yeah. And what was it? And it was funny. I had one of my relatives one time said, "Hey Ryan, I see that you follow Emmett the Crab. I do too." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." Yeah, he's still
That's
around
funny.
somewhere in the background, feeling resentful of the Clive Barker podcast.
Is the dummy still stored somewhere?
Yeah, he's in bad shape. I need to
Okay.
fix him up.
You you should bring him back for some episode. You should
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
show and tell or
yeah,
something like that. Maybe we could do another one of those episodes where we just talk about the things that we like other than Clive Barker
yeah,
and make it like a short episode with the stuff that we usually
yeah,
like to get into. But this is episode 500. So that's,
yeah.
I think you had a great idea. I had a similar idea, but much more vague because at the time I when we met at the Fifth Dominion Forum,
Mhm.
that was sometime around 2010 that we met. And
Or
it was a
yeah,
pretty interesting.
2008.
Was it
Yeah, maybe.
2008?
I mean, I
Oh
kind of,
yeah.
I knew you as one of the contributors. I think
Right.
you talked about Hellraiser more than anything.
I did, because I used to hang out more at the Hellbound Web forum at the time, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to know more about other Clive Barker stuff and be able to discuss other Clive Barker stuff with other fans. So the Hellraiser part, it's a big deal, but it's not. It's just a part of like the Clive Barker universe, right?
Right.
So I think Roger Boyes in Florida, he created that forum, and for a while it was the place to go if you wanted to discuss, what was happening, the books that were coming out, things like talk about the movies, talk about the whatever books were coming out. It was pretty fun. That was, of course, before Facebook started becoming more mainstream and took out all the people that used to hang out at forums, just started going on social media, and then the forums kind of died off a bit. Some of them are still active, but most of them died off.
So when I told everybody on the forum, hey, I'm planning on doing a podcast, and I had imagined 2 men and 2 women, like a round table sort of a deal. Right. Yeah. And what I didn't realize is how difficult it would be to get consistent people to join all the time. And so different people, David couldn't do it because he didn't have internet at his house. And, so he would get on the forum only when he was at work. And Maureen just didn't, had personal reasons she didn't want to do it. And Antoinette, her work schedule didn't work out for the podcast. And then Antoinette, who is also Tsarina on the forum, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And Roger joined us for a while, for a few episodes, but then he would start saying, like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. And so we would get on there and we would wait and go, is Roger coming? And like, he just said, I'm not sure. So we would sit there for like half an hour and wait for Roger, and he didn't show up. And I'm like, I think we better just get started, I guess.
Well, I mean, if there's one thing that I've learned making this podcast with you for so long, was that the commitment that you have to you have to carve out a spot for this thing in your schedule, in your mind, and in your heart. And then you have to be loyal to that place that you've carved.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun to do this with you. I mean, I'm so glad that you started this idea. It's 500 episodes of exploring the labyrinthine worlds of Clive Barker. I mean, from the Books of Blood to the depths of the Hellbound Heart, from Midian to the Scarlet Gospels, cult films to collector editions and director's cuts that have come out.
Yeah.
We did so many interviews and commentary tracks. I mean, over the year, we had some really good privilege to speak with actors, artists, scholars like Sorka, and the man himself, Clive Barker. Occasionally we've been able to talk to him, even if it was just punctual things here and there, but all in the celebration of the fantastique and the frightening genius that is Clive Barker.
So we tried to set up a meeting with people from the old Fifth Dominion forum, right? We wanted to have a kind of a group call. And what we discovered was that for the same reasons that these people didn't join our podcast in the first place, they also weren't able to join us, on this 500th episode as well. So
it's pretty hard. There are a lot of people are in different time zones. They got jobs, they got families. I understand. It's always very complicated.
Her work schedule didn't work out, and David, internet issues, and I'm not sure about him. And then Roger, was going to, and then he said no at the last minute.
But when that happens, we can also get recordings with people in different occasions and then put them through into the episode. And that's how it worked out for this celebration, right?
Yeah. And so we can play a little clip from our very first episode, just to kind of warn you, this sounds really bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So welcome to the Clive Barker Podcast.
Many years.
You can find us at www.clivebarkercast.com. And with me is Roger Boyes and Jose Leitao.
Hello. I am.
So, I guess to get started, Roger, what was your first introduction to Clive Barker? What was the first memory that you have of his work?
Oh, that was way back. Probably like Nightbreed or Hellraiser, the first things I ever saw. And then later I saw Hellbound. And that really got me, that got me into it. I was like, wow, this is... I think it was the unrated version I saw, and I was like, oh, man, this is like something just for adults. How did I get to see this? It just... That scene with the guy in the insane asylum cutting himself up, that just totally messed me up for the rest of my life.
And what about you, Jose?
Oh, yeah, well, I think that my first exposure to Clive Barker's work was probably flipping the channel one day and seeing, like, Frank all bloodied up wearing a white suit saying to Christy, hey, it's me, it's Uncle Frank, come to Daddy. And I was like, whoa, what is this? So I wasn't old enough to be able to watch Hellraiser at the time. But I guess my brother got the VHS tape from the video store. And he was watching the movie. And I was kind of like sneaking from the doorway watching the movie too. And, that was a fun thing. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
And I got hooked. I got hooked, and then I saw it on the big screen because we had a fantastic film festival in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tradition that in every festival there was always at least one session of Hellraiser going on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was going to do all three of us, but that was going on kind of long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good memories. I think I expected it to even be worse. I expected it for me to get a lot of ums and ahs and whatever, but that was actually nice, except of course for the quality, the quality is just terrible.
Yeah, it was a laptop microphone for me, and you were using like a gaming
Skype
headset.
Yeah, like a little gaming headset. That was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm glad now we got these cool mics that we can talk to like this.
Yeah,
but no, yeah, that was good times. That was from the 2011 year in review episode, was that right?
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And so we were kind of introducing the podcast as well as like, and then our first topic. A lot of times on podcasts they'll have an episode 0 where they just kind of spend like 2 minutes talking about what they're going to do in the future. We didn't do that. We just jumped right in and did an episode, started with episode 1 and like, let's look back at 2011. And which, was a big part of that was Hellraiser Revelations.
Yes.
Way to kick off the episode, I guess, for the podcast.
I think at that point, at least in my personal experience, in my opinion, I think things were kind of in a bit of a slump in terms of releases from Clive Barker around 2010 and stuff like that. Because Aberrat had started in 2002, right? Then I think 2008 or 10, that's when the second book came out, right?
Yeah, 8, I think.
8. So
and
it
then
had been
13
a while
for the third one.
Yeah, so it had been a while since something had come out, and I think at one point Rob Humphreys was leaving Seraphin, right?
Yeah.
At the time that you got involved in this whole matter, and then the new Seraphin was being brought in, which is now gone as well. But it was kind of a transition period, and I guess we started bringing news and stuff. I mean, you obviously, I was the one who just wanted to discuss things on the podcast, but you wanted to bring news to the blog regularly, right? So that was a thing where I was like, I don't know if I can, write articles regularly for the blog. It's like I just didn't have that focus to create content like that, written content. I was much more comfortable just talking about things. Luckily that evolved into, obviously we started doing audio news episodes, but when we started that, I had tried my hand at starting a little podcast myself back in the day. I did that for one of my first Patreon episodes. I went back and I reminded people that I used to have a little blog which I used to call Hellraiser Gallery, where I would try to post a little article here and there about news about Clive Barker.
So your podcast that you had, did it have an RSS feed?
It did for a while. Yeah. I only had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say like 6 different files. I wouldn't even call them episodes. They weren't that long. They were just like maybe a few minutes each. I remember one of them, I read an excerpt from the Hellraiser 3 unfilmed script by Peter Atkins. about the Pinhead coming back and
with the bug carapace and stuff.
Yeah, and like a vat that a rogue priest had collected all of his bits of flesh from the torture pillar.
Yeah,
that appeared in the end of the Hellbound Web, and then they would put it in a vat and summon a demonic ceremony. And then I did a review of Hellraiser Prophecy, which was a fan film by Jonathan Q, who also made it to some of our episodes. And then I made a little coverage of the Hellraiser Reunion Monster Mania Con 5. I just did I read pretty much an article saying, hey, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Doug Bradley and a bunch of actors are going to get together. And it was, that was around 2006, I think.
Yeah. And you don't have these files anymore.
I don't. No, I lost them. Like, this is lost to the ages, because sometimes I would put these files in an old hard drive, and the hard drive would fall over and, it would get corrupted or scratched. And then you've lost everything that you had in that particular.
I still have stuff that I had saved on floppy disks on my Amiga.
That's pretty impressive.
I just kept on translating it into a readable format for whatever the next computer was.
That is pretty impressive. I wish I had that foresight to be careful that way, because a lot of stuff, when you bought those cheaper, it's a 250 megabyte hard drive or something, and then it would come with this little plastic piece where you put it vertically on your table, and then if that thing happened to fall over while it was reading, boom, it was dead. It would scratch the hard drive and forget about it. And that's what happened with a bunch of my stuff at one point. It's like I lost one or two hard drives and all that stuff disappeared. I have that in a platform called Audio, ODEO. But
they put it on iTunes and stuff too?
No, I don't think so. You could just, actually you could. Yeah, it says here feeds, RSS, M33, M3U, XSPF, or you could subscribe to it in iTunes. But I don't know how accurate that was, because maybe audio.
A lot of podcasts went to iTunes, and then other places would scrape it off of there.
Yeah. But do you remember back in the day when an iTunes store, they used to feature podcasts on? There was one guy who was responsible for featuring podcasts. I found that out recently, back in the beginning of iTunes. Yeah. So it was kind of easy to send people an email and get them to put your
They
podcast
still do that,
feature.
But it's an algorithm now. It's not
right. But yeah, I mean, we also had kind of similar ideas. My podcast was short-lived, and it was just 6 episodes, and total of the episodes was probably half an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't follow a format for it. They were short. The microphone was very low quality, but the idea was there in my mind. And you brought that up, and you asked me, hey, do you want to join and do this? And I was like, I'm in. It was a long-term commitment, and you built it all technically and financially at first. So that was pretty much you that, you had your iTunes account, and in the beginning you would have the storage space that Apple gave you or iTunes gave you, right? To host the podcast.
Yeah. So away. Apple had a program called iWeb, right? And it was like a what you see is what you get, like a WYSIWYG web editor. And if you dragged an MP3 file into a blog post on that iWeb, it would automatically upload it into iTunes.
Oh,
which is bizarre. Like, nothing ever works like that. I mean, there's no other platform ever. And then there was one day where and so I didn't know how to make an RSS feed. I knew there was feed burner and stuff, and that people did it that way, but I didn't know how to do that. I looked into it and I couldn't figure it out. And then one day Apple discontinued iWeb, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I don't know how to any other way to create a podcast. And we already had a bunch of episodes that we'd done. And so I was researching, and I saw a YouTube video of this teenager going, hey, here's the best way to do a free podcast hosting. And it was this host called Podomatic. Mm-hmm. And so that was obviously probably paid content. It was awful. Podomatic was terrible. So they were free when you first put an episode in, but they increased how much it costs, depending on first how much storage you use, and second how much bandwidth you're using. So every week I would get a bill from them that would be higher than the last one. Like, well, your bandwidth went up and your storage went up. It's like, of course the storage went up. We're putting more episodes in every time. So,
and we were just doing for a short time at that time, and it was already the hosting was already running out, right?
Well, it got to $300 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called them up, and like the owner of Podomatic, I talked to him on the phone. I said, "This is insane. I can't do this." I said, "I've already quit and gone over to Libsyn." And he said, "Well, we can match their prices." I said, "Their price is $20 a month. You're charging me $300 a month."
Right.
He said, "Well, I can do that." It's like, "Well, why didn't you do that in the start then? Why are you trying to rip me off?"
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, I don't know. Hopefully,
it was the
with Podomatic, but
it was the beginning of like the podcast thing, right? I mean, it was still there was still not a definite format for podcasting as a way to make money, or even like. So I'm not surprised that they were charging those kind of weird prices, because they were probably thinking about it as like a cloud storage thing, and not so much that the idea that a podcast is an ongoing thing that's always going to keep having more and more episodes.
Well, we've been with Libsyn ever since, and they've been great. Their prices haven't changed. There was a time when we were at a $40 a month tier so that we could have an app developer, and we had our own web apps for Android and iOS.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're back down to $20 a month again, which is pretty manageable. So I guess we will take a break here really quick, because I wanted to show our chat with Maureen. So Maureen Mavar, who was one of our original members of the Fifth Dominion forum, we had a long chat with her, and that was great. And we'll do that right now. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is episode 500, and we're kicking it off with our very special guest, Maureen Mavar. And is it Mavar or Mavar? How do you say it?
Mavar, yeah.
Mavar. I've seen it in print, and I didn't want to presume. But we've actually met before. We met in 2014, I think, right?
A long time ago, yes.
Yeah, I think it was, we were the Nightbreed premiere, right? That's when we went down to California. Well, Jose was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we went to the Crest in Westwood, that was a that was a fun time when we all got together.
Which is now the Nimoy Theater.
Oh, really? They renamed it?
Yeah, they remodeled it and changed it all. It was across the street from where our old work office was, so I would see it all the time.
Oh,
but yeah, cool. It's changed.
They named it after the actor who played Spock.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's great.
Of course, you're in LA. Yeah. You've had access to all sorts of conventions and events where Clive was over the years, and you've had a chance to hang out with Clive a lot and meet him at signings and stuff like that. You're a true fan. You got all that stuff right behind you. You got all those amazing posters, and you got your Clive Barker Society t-shirt, which
I do. Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that. That was kind of like a weird launch thing that happened. Yeah. How did you
from the Negovan version of the Clive Barker Society? Or?
Yeah, I think that was the only one.
Yeah. I've got so much stuff I don't remember where I got it. So
yeah. So for my birthday, my dad said, "Hey Ryan, I got you a couple of Clive Barker shirts," and I'm thinking, oh, maybe like something from Phil and Sarah's site, with art on it or something. It's like, nope.
Oh no.
Best Barker ever. Oh my God.
I don't know.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. And and I have some friends with the last name Barker. I hope that I don't want to say, well, it's not you.
Carnival Barker.
It's hilarious.
Maybe?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I've met Maureen also when we were watching the Nightbreed Cabal Cut, actually. The Cabal Cut at the Hyatt in
that was that weird what was that convention called? Convolutions or something like that?
Convolutions, that's right. Yeah. That's where we met in person. But I've known you, Maureen, since way back in like 2008 or something. we used to hang out all at the same forum, which was created by Roger in Florida, and it was called the Fifth Dominion. That's where we all met.
Yeah.
You know, me, you, Antoinette, Roger, Ryan, Darth Ackert. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think I totally forgot him, except that he's on my PlayStation friends list, and I always say, "Who's Darth Ackert?" But now that thank you.
Yeah, he bought some stuff during that Fangoria auction. I think he got some props. You remember when there was a prop store auction with stuff from Midnight Meat Train? I think he got.
I bid on a couple things, but I didn't get them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he bid on like one of the hammers that's made out of rubber and stuff like that. And I remember they had the big pile of skulls for sale, but someone bought that. It was like crazy.
Do you remember Fallon that would only talk about Rawhead Rex?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he had all the busts, right? He had all the sculpts of all the Rawhead Red stuff that came out. That was...
I met him. He was behind me in line at Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2011, and so he had brought this bust of Rawhead with him. So and then Clive colored it in like these face tattoos in blue on it. Yeah, he said, you know, he told him that he had plans for Rawhead to have like these kind of tribal tattoos. I don't know if he made that up or if but it's interesting.
It's possible. It's always possible. Yeah. You guys were lucky because I was living in Portugal, so I didn't have access to meeting Clive at signings and conventions, but you guys were hardcore fans. You were checking out every time he went to, you know, a convention. You were always there to get stuff signed and talk to Clive and hang out. So I was always living by proxy through the forums because you guys would post pictures and stuff. And Maureen, you have
2001, I had to fly to everything that I went to.
Right. Because that's what
I just went down the street. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. So jealous.
Yeah. But, in fact, if I drive 15 minutes, it's funny because Clive's always I've not been far from Clive. We're about 15 minutes away from each other, pretty much any point in time, no matter where I move. It's
the old joke that everything in LA is like 20 minutes away, right?
Yeah, that would be a joke. Yeah. I mean, in theory, it's 20 minutes away, but with traffic, it's 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember... Did you get to go to Dark Delicacies right before they shut down?
No, I think I've only went to the new location a couple times, and it's been a couple years or so, at least. That's like Burbank. That's like hours away.
Sure.
Yeah. I suppose to me that's all relative, I guess.
Yeah.
I used to live by proxy from seeing you guys post stuff on the forums, and I remember, thanks to you, Maureen, I got a copy of Mr. Begone signed by Clive Barker because you were kind enough to go to the launch of the book, which I think it was like an early launch, maybe a week before it was going to come out. And I got to have the book signed by Clive. And I thank you so much for being able to get that for me. That was really amazing.
Was that the signing that was on Halloween? I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah. It was funny because he was spending a lot of time with people inside, and it was definitely at least a half hour after the signing was supposed to start. And there was this huge line of people, and I'm like, all right, fine. And I go walking in there, and I'm like, Clive, there are people outside. Would you shut up and start? And that's when he told his assistant, he's like, this is Maureen. We have a psychic bond. I said, don't you mean psychotic? That was a fun night. That's actually one of my favorite pictures of us is from that night.
Yeah. What was the location for that?
It was in West Hollywood. Can't remember the store name. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, I think it was pretty. I think it was on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood.
Okay. Yeah. I've been to one for him in Book Soup. and then one in and then Midnight Meat Train was at Dark Delicacies at the old location.
Book Soup, I think, was that a Magica? Because I know he did one for a Magica in Book Soup.
Oh yeah, I saw him for a Magica in Seattle at the Pike Place Market.
Okay, so it might have been one of the other times.
So yeah, but so I don't know where he went in California on that one.
Yeah, there was a lot of places he went. That literally would have to go back and look at my photos and then hopefully have a picture of a sign that told me where I was.
Yeah.
I know I'm terrible with memories too. I everything is jumbled after 5 years back. It's like I never remember what year I lived where or when. It's really hard to keep track of that. But it was good times when we would hang out at the forum and discuss stuff all day, and we'd talk about upcoming conventions and little bits of news that would come out about Clive giving interviews and stuff. That was always a great way to keep the community going, to be able to just hang out at the same forum. I know communities online have always been like a great way to pass on word of mouth about books and records and stuff. So that's always been super fun. And it was thanks to Roger. And before that, I used to hang out a lot on that other Hellraiser forum, which was the Hellbound Web. So, but that one was very, very Hellraiser like focused, right? It was more like Hellraiser, not so much Clive Barker in general.
And I wasn't in this one, but wasn't there a Yahoo group or something also?
Oh yeah. But Yahoo groups, I never really understood how they worked. It was more like a mailing list, right? It was more like a and we're showing our age here when we're talking about Yahoo groups. Pretty soon we're going to be talking about tribe.net.
Whatever things. I forget what they were called.
Usenet?
Right? Usenet, yeah.
Yeah.
The
alt groups, discussion stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So from the Mr. Begone tour, this is the one that I got signed in Seattle.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that sketch.
I went to two of his signings in Seattle. It seemed like there were always two. And I'm sure in California there were more than two for each,
Yeah, that's how come I have so many copies of the books and they're all signed to me. And I'm like, what am I going to do with 4 copies of these books?
Yeah, I would do the same thing, and I would drag people with me to have them also get 2 more books so that they could also get other things signed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I figure at least one I don't touch. One is for reading. And I think one of the books I was reading and I spilled something on it. And I said, well, now I have to have another one signed.
That's how it goes.
That's how
I am too.
Yeah.
And but it was shocking to go to Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2011 because that was the first time I'd ever had to pay for an autograph. And I brought a huge duffel bag full of books. And so when they totaled it all up, it was $1,200. So they were like, Ryan, this is too much. Why don't you just come hang out with us and sit at the table until the whole line is through, and then you can get all your stuff signed.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really neat though. I was, I guess I was paying $1,200, so they were kind of they were treating me nicely, but I didn't realize I was going to get charged. I thought they would be free like all the other book sightings, and I'd never been to a horror convention before.
Yeah, conventions are a money pit, pretty much.
Yeah,
I didn't think I got the one picture from the Chicago convention that Clive just did. I got that signed, but at this point, actually the Mr. Begone, he signed my book. He wrote in my book, but he didn't put a signature in there. And I pointed it out and he's like, you don't need it. I said, yeah, I know I don't need it. So for me to get anything else signed, I don't need it. I'd rather have photos. I'd rather have, than stuff. I've got enough stuff. I'm trying to get rid of stuff.
I kind of wish that back in time that I had brought cameras with me to these events, like 1990 to like 98 or whatever, I never brought cameras. I never thought about it, you know, and it was like we didn't have them in our phones or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you
I always
used
had
to,
my camera.
yeah, you always took some nice pictures. I remember on that, I think it was that night with the Mr. Begone signing, you took some really good pictures of Clive.
Yeah.
He was wearing like a white shirt, and there's like a really striking picture of him that I actually had printed out for myself. I think that's the day when he wrote on your book that you were the hook that catches fishes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
one
beautiful.
of my well, he started writing out somebody else's name, and I'm like, so my name is kind of like, I think it was like Marjorie, and I was like, wait a minute, who's Marjorie? Can someone get me another book, because this one's messed up.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, I'll keep it. I got some fun signatures. I got some fun drawings. I went to one book signing, and I was wearing my Kermit the Frog watch. So he drew a killer Kermit with fangs and stuff like that I showed Brian Henson, who was horrified. But
oh my gosh,
it was pretty funny.
You still have that?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, you should get a picture of that. That would be, I would love to see that. That's
think
amazing.
It's in the Clive Barker art group, right? In that,
it's in that.
Oh,
there's one massive post where he's collected all of the book art into one, into one post, and you can scroll through there, and there's probably like 1,000 pictures of art that he's done, and
I'll have to check that out. That's amazing. I want to see that
Mr. Begone one that I just showed you guys is in there.
Yeah.
And it seems like towards the end of the forum, I had talked Roger into buying a domain name, because I'm like, why is it timewins.com/Clive Barker? I said, how about clivebarkerfans.com? So he bought that. But then it was really the end of the and Facebook was starting to take off, and that was the end of the kind of the end of people using the forums, and you'd go on there and nothing was really going on.
Yeah. Well, was that, what year was that?
Like maybe 2008 or 2010. I can't remember exactly.
See, yeah, that's surprising, because, I can imagine if it had been later, when there was less news or less things to talk about. Like now, there's not a lot to talk about. But at that time, it was like event after event, after convention after convention, after book after book.
And there were like 4 movies in a row, right? With the Book of Blood and Midnight Meat Train and Dread and I guess 3 movies.
Art exhibit.
It was an amazing time.
Yeah.
Right.
It was.
Yeah.
I think the big change, Ryan, that Roger did with the site was sometime around 2014, when he actually revamped the whole forum and created a new forum. And then it lasted maybe another year and a half, and it kind of tapered out around 2016. Did we
lose all of our old posts when that happened?
I think so. I think we started over again. Yeah, that's when he upgraded the forum, and then we lost everything that we had before. But you can still find some of that stuff on the Wayback Archive in the Web Archive website. So you can still see, like, the old spam thread. What are you doing this weekend? Video game thread, because we're all of us here play video games. I mean, Maureen, you're even like a VR player, right?
Yeah.
But I've heard that there's a mod that can make you play in a VR headset Clive Barker's Undying, and I don't know how that works, but I saw a YouTube video that said some guy had a mod to make Clive Barker's Undying on VR, and that it works pretty well. So I'll see if I can find information on that.
And is it done out of a browser, or do you down? I mean,
it would have to be like PC VR. It would have to.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I can do that. Yeah. I have everything now.
Imagine firing the Tibetan cannon in VR. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. I bought Undying, but I never played it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's gotten a little dated now. Yeah, it's gotten a little dated, but it's still a fun game. It's still a fun game to play.
I wish I had the ability to play the Nightbreed game, because I have that one as well.
Oh yeah, there are two Nightbreed games. There's the interactive movie and the action game, and they were both and the action game really was only available in Europe.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a platformer.
Do you still remember what was the first thing you've read or watched that was made by Clive Barker? Was it like Hellraiser or a book, or do you remember?
I was actually at LAX on my way to London, and I said, well, let me get something to read. And I was looking at the bookshelves, and there was the paperback for Weave World, which, of course, the cover just caught my eye. And I always like, read what it's about. And then I turn and I look at the author, and I'm like, he's cute. So that's literally what made me buy the book. Well, no, I actually like read the first page. And if the first page of any book doesn't make me want to turn the page, I won't pick it up. And it did. And that was it. It was like soon after that, there was a book signing. And so I went, and I'm like, oh, you're even cuter in person. Oblivious me. I would meet people in line, none of who I'm still know. But I remember there was one signing, and that was the time when people were cutting open their arms to have Clive sign in blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a crazy time. Yeah. And I said, so I looked at Clive, and I looked at this girl and said, I'm going to lick his face. And she's like, I don't think he'll like that. And I'm like, we'll see. So it goes up, and I literally licked him from his chin to his temple, and we've been friends ever since.
Wow. So, that's where the psychic bond happened. Yeah.
That's where the psychic bond happened. I said, I just wanted to see if you tasted as good as you look. Oh,
that's so funny. Yeah. Oh my God. Good times. Was that book, when you bought Weave World, was that the American cover that has the eye and the frame and all that, or was it? Do you remember?
I still have it actually.
It
was the cover that opened up. No. It was the paperback, and this is the actual original book because the front cover is falling off.
As it should. That one.
This one. Yeah.
Yes.
So see, look, the front cover is falling off.
Yep. I see it. Wow.
And then I found out about Hellraiser. And I love The Exorcist and the rest of it. So I loved horror. And so I went and saw Hellraiser and literally watched the movie through my fingers. And now I can watch it and eat dinner at the same time. It doesn't faze me whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I kind of laugh at some things now. But back then it was like, ugh. And it's funny because I'm one of these that likes more of Clive's, not the horror stuff. Well, I do like some. I gave my mom the first books of Blood to read. She read the first story, threw it down, and wouldn't touch anything ever again. No matter, I said, well, try Weave World. And she's like, nope, not going to do it. I said, yeah, she just wouldn't.
Was it the Book of Blood?
The first Books of Blood. Yeah,
it's a great opener.
Yeah, the Book of Blood, the story.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
That's pretty gory.
Yeah. She was like, nope. I'm like, okay, Mom. I should have given her the Yattering and Jack, but I don't think she would have liked the cats exploding, which always made me laugh. So.
Oh yeah.
That's true. I don't know why, but it's like I like cats so much. I have a confession to make. Yesterday, I tried to watch Cats, the movie on Netflix, but I couldn't get past the opening scene where there's kittens inside a bag and someone's throwing them into an alley in the trash. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And I just stopped it. And I was like, that's fine.
Oh,
yeah, I can't watch that kind of stuff. It just makes me feel really, really sensitive about that. But I get it.
Yeah. Oh, I always say that I could look at crime scene photos for days, but you show me a dead animal and I'll just fall apart.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah.
The other day, my son was throwing a ball with his friend on this busy road, and one of them threw the ball into the road, and Joel started running after it.
Oh.
And all I could think of is all the different horror movies where kids are running into the street in slow motion. And I just yelled, "Stop!" And he stopped and looked at me like, "What? What's the problem?" And then this car went by, and then he went and got the ball.
Yeah. Guess where I bought this? I bought this at a Goodwill, and I paid like $3.29 for it.
See, that's what I'm afraid. Well, my family would know better, but that's why I'm like, well, let's give. I'm going through a lot of Clive stuff that I am going to sell, like all the graphic novels and stuff like that. I don't think I've opened one of them. It's just I was collecting everything, and I just have too much stuff, and so I rather let people who can really appreciate it and want it to have it. Like you said, I don't need a signature. I've got it enough times that, and I have a lot of stuff that's just signed. So, like, here, you guys can have it.
Well, if you want us to promote that, let us know, and then also that'll kind of give us first dibs.
Yeah. I have to go. I had a list of all the graphic novels and if they were signed and all the extra books. I've already sold a couple things. My friend Adam, who I met in Chicago, he lives in Ireland. I got him some stuff that he'd been looking for that he hadn't been able to find, or it was obscenely expensive. And I'm like, well, here, the money's not important. Well, I like money, but some of the prices I see, I'm like, that's just stupid.
Yeah. Some of the stuff can be very expensive, and people kind of use deluxe editions almost as like an investment. It's
amazing to me. You'll see like stuff that didn't seem like it was that long ago, and they'll ask like 300. Like Tortured Souls, the book, or stuff like that. You'll find out that it's now suddenly that's worth a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
To me, it's like if I paid $500 for it, I'd want at least that. But if I got close to that, I'd be okay with it. I sold my oil painting for less than I paid for it, but my dog was sick, so he needed surgery. But if I win the lottery, this girl has this one painting I want, and I'll give her 10 grand for it, but I need to win the lottery.
Yeah, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't just stick to one painting. I would buy a whole bunch of them. That's for sure.
Oh no, I already said I would go to Clive and say, okay, let me loose in whatever you have, and I'll be like, I'll take that, and that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That.
Yeah.
And you get in the car, you're coming too.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Yeah, well, now that studio house is sold, right? So all those paintings must be in, I think there's an office somewhere that they must have moved all that stuff to.
I had a friend here from England, and we were going by celebrity houses like Vin Diesel and the rest of it. I'm like, well, we're near Clive's place. And I went driving down the street, and I'm like, why can't I find it? There was a lot of construction going on, and I didn't realize the houses had been sold. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't find the fence with the
Nix.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't find that. And so I thought, did we pass it? Did I not? I'm like, I'm sure we passed it. So that was kind of depressing.
Oh, I wonder if somebody took the Nix off of there.
They did. Yeah. It's not there.
Oh, well.
Hopefully
I have a picture of me standing in front of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it moved to his house. It would it just disappeared, but it's definitely not there anymore. Because that was the first thing. That's how I knew where I was.
Yeah, because those houses are kind of tucked back a little bit with trees and stuff, so they're not easy to spot.
Yeah. So that was kind of depressing. But every time I go up and over canyon, I wave. I'm like, hi, Clive.
Yeah, and then we all decided to start a podcast at some point. Ryan and I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever been.
I don't even listen to talk radio. My sister's like, you should listen to. I said no. I'm like a little kid. You start talking. You make me listen to people talking. I'm going to fall asleep.
Oh,
Bad enough in a movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way some people use podcasts to go to sleep and stuff. So I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, and originally I had planned to have like a big panel of people, so I was hoping Maureen and Antoinette, Roger, Jose, and David, all of us on like a big panel to discuss things. And then it turned out, David didn't have very good internet. Roger would say like, hey, I may not be able to make it. And then so we would wait for half an hour to start. And Roger was like, do we just start? I don't know. Is Roger coming? We don't know. And then Antoinette, her schedule, which is like the same thing about today, that she worked evenings and weekends. And that's like the only time we could really ever record. And
that's right. So the logistics was really the big hurdle to getting that, because we were all in different places, really. I mean, it's different time zones, but
Jose and I had a 9-hour time difference, when we started, from him being in Portugal and me in Alaska. The extreme, I guess Hawaii would have been even an hour earlier, but other than, we have a 4-hour time difference now, which is better.
Yeah, that's right. That's
better
right.
than 9.
Yeah. But we just kept at it, and it's amazing how we've all kept together in touch always throughout so many years. Like I know you, Maureen, at least for maybe 19 years, 19 years now at this point.
Why'd you have to put a number on that?
I know,
I don't know, man. It's like,
can't be possible. I'm only like 25. So.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the weird thing about getting older, is you still feel like, I don't feel like a different person than I did when I was 20 or whatever.
But your body tells you are.
Yeah, it's like I can't get up out of a chair without making some kind of noise, like
oh boy. Anyway. But hopefully we'll still be around for a lot of stuff, discussing more stuff in the future. I still would love to see Clive finish the Abrat books, if that's
you think you would.
Yeah.
Well, it was something interesting that, Maureen, you had mentioned, about around 1987 or 86, right? When you're looking, when you saw Weave World for the first time. And back then, books were coming out like crazy. It's like, that wasn't very long from when he started. And but nowadays it's like it's been more than 10 years since even the Scarlet Gospels. And that's like the new book that everybody's talking about. And it was 11 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and when we were at the office, we saw the binders for Avarat.
Yes. Yeah.
Through 3, 4, 5, I think it was.
Yeah.
I just was like, my hand just was like itching, reaching up, going, oh no, shit, that guy's looking at me. I can't reach up and pull the binder out.
I would feel like that too, and they didn't care. Like Mark Miller didn't care. They would say, oh yeah, you can look at that stuff. And I was
read his handwriting anyway.
Well, and I was so starstruck that I'm flipping through these and none of it's registering in my mind. I wasn't really reading.
Right. Yeah. When we were there in 2012,
2014, I think.
14. Yes. Thank you. I'm terrible with dates.
That was my second time, because I'd been there in 2011.
Yeah. That was the moment when you handed me like the manuscript of a Magica, and I was holding it and I looked down and I was like, oh my God, this is a Magica.
Yeah. I said like, here, hold this.
And I flipped it open, and it's like you said, I was trying to read it, but scratch is kind of hard. Yeah. Chicken scratch is a little hard to read, but it's like, so it was a very interesting time. I can't imagine having access to that more than once, and being able to just stop by anytime. That would be like the dream for a nerd like myself. But anyway, now we just do the podcast, and we've reached the episode 500. So now we're bringing everybody that we can in. So that's why we got confetti. You.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been very instrumental in keeping at least my fandom of Clive Barker, thanks to all the stuff that we've shared over the years. And I think it's really important to have you here today and be able to tell you that it's been a really great journey being a fellow Clive Barker fan and discussing so many things with you and having your insight over the years.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Yay, I did something. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, I knew I was blessed to be here, and if like I said, if anybody wanted something signed, let me know. I'll get it. I would get like freebies. I'm like, anybody want any of these? Because I've got like 20 of them. I just knew that I was blessed. I was glad I could help people out. People would have questions. Can you ask Clive this? And that was the thing. Clive and I never spoke about his work.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke about life stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So if anybody had a question, I'm like, okay. Once we got done talking about our stuff, I said, this is, I have to ask you this. And I'd have to write down what he would say. But yeah, I mean, he even got me trying to figure out if I'm actually doing the job I want to do. Cause I told him I was an accountant. He's like, do you find that rewarding? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It pays the bills.
Yeah.
And I had gone back to college to get an accounting degree at the time. And when the semester ended, I switched to administration of justice because I wanted to be a criminalist. That's what I wanted to be. The funny thing is I was doing great, but realized that I'd be 50 years old by the time I graduated, competing for the same job as a 25-year-old who could take a lower salary. I'm like, okay, accounting just still pays better. Weird things like that just we would talk about. I miss talking with him about stuff. Every now and then, I'll just sit down and I'll write to him. I'll just like write 10-page letters to him and I just mail them off. I never hear anything, but it's like I just let him know what's going on.
Yeah.
And in Chicago, he was like, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. And I'm like, or 8 years. I'm like, no, it was 8 years. He said something like some obscenely large number of years. And I'm like, no. And I had to think about it. I'm like, well, there was this whole pandemic thing going on, Clive.
Yeah.
And then you weren't well and you weren't doing anything. So I said, okay, technically, yes, it's been 8 years, but there was a lot going on in between those 8 years.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't feel like that when you're there. Yeah.
No.
That's what matters. Yeah, not everyone can be a creative, Clive. That would be the dream, right? Being able to live out of being creative, but some of us have to deal with a suburbanite lifestyle.
And I think there is also a reward of being able to do a job that you're good at. I mean, it doesn't have to, that can feel good too.
And at the end of the day, you got all this wonderful stuff that you can dip into. Thanks for joining us, Maureen. It's always great to talk to you. And I hope that we continue to be friends and talk about stuff that we love for many years to come.
Well, I'm sure we will.
That was our chat with Maureen. It was nice to catch up with her again. We got to meet her at the Nightbreed Director's Cut premiere in 2014.
That's right. And she was there. She was there in Los Angeles. Yeah, we were at the Clive studio with her, and I also watched the Cabal Cut with her and Sarah at in Burlingame at the Hyatt when that convolution screening was going on.
And she also came to the Portland screening in the Lovecraft. What was it? The Lovecraft Film Festival in Portland.
Oh,
so she came to that one, and she came to the pizza party that we had.
Oh, with Richard Stanley.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I got to buy Richard Stanley pizza. I've still never seen any of his movies.
All right, well, that's your homework.
Yeah.
Start with Dust Devil. That's a good one.
Dust Devil. Okay.
Yeah.
And so next up we have a voicemail from Antoinette, who was Tsarina on the yeah.
Love you, Antoinette.
She did too.
Hi, hopefully this will work. This is Antoinette, as we know, from Dominion, and I started being a fan of Clive Barker after a boyfriend at the time was leaving behind Stephen King books, and I would read them and then return them back to the library to the little girlfriend I was. And then after I got through all the books at the library of Stephen King, then I noticed a little book from Clive Barker with a little promo. I've seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker, and that sold me. So I read all I could of Clive Barker, and not long after I was hooked, became the tour, the tour for People Always. And then getting to meet your idol after dove into his work really sold me, and I've been a fan ever since. Um, I can't remember how I found Sister Minion. I don't know if it was through Yahoo. Because I know I was part of some Yahoo groups. Um, but I was always starving for a place where I could, talk about Clive, read about Clive, meet other people that were, as interested in his work as I was, and I wasn't finding that, in real life. So I was happy to find that online. Um, so, and then of course now that we have Facebook, it's a world of so many Clive Barker fans. So I still haven't met any.
That was the first one.
So I know I got cut off, so I'm just going to finish. I think what I was saying in the end is that I haven't met any Clive Barker fans in real life that I can like go to, uh, you know, have dinner with, coffee and that such in my neck of the woods. So I'm very grateful that we now have Facebook and so many other um, spaces that we can discuss Clive Barker and read about Clive Barker and such. So, and so many conventions I was able to attend, gratefully. And then of course we had the fan club that was Cheryl and anyway. So yeah, so just hopefully you all be able to use this information or edit it and all that good stuff. If you want any more or you have any other questions you want me to answer, feel free to reach out. Bye guys.
All right. Well, thank you, Antoinette
Thank
/
you.
Czarnina.
Thank you so much. This means so much to us to be able to hear these messages of support and love. I love all our listeners, and it's you guys have inspired us to do this. And I don't think I would be doing this every week if it wasn't for Ryan and the rest of the people out there that listen to our podcast.
So for this segment, we have one more it's a set of voicemails from someone who calls himself Clive Barker. I don't know if that's his real name because he also says he's Clive Barker's son. So I'm not. But we'll listen to it anyway.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to hell. This is Clive Barker, Clive Barker's son. Ryan and Jose are out, so I took over the podcast. Let me just tell you real quick how I find Clive Barker and the Barker cast. When I was a child, I wanted to know what all the buzz about Clive Barker was about. I had seen some parts of the Hellraiser movies and would often encounter Pinhead in merchandise and movie stores. So I went to the local library, and there I found The Thief of Always. I was about 10, maybe 11, maybe even younger. I read it, and what can I say, I did not like it. Recently I bought the book, read it again, and still did not like it. When I read it as a child, I was kind of devastated. This was Clive Barker. I wasn't impressed, but I didn't give up on him. At around the same time, a friend got the game Clive Barker's Undying, and we loved it, and to this day it's still one of my favorite games, actually. So, Clive, if you're hearing this, please give us a sequel. Anyway, later as a young adult, when I got into reading, I picked up Clive again. And these other stories I did really like. And when I like stories, I really want to dive deep.
There's one more part here.
And talk about them with other people. And hear their thoughts on them. Actually, I enjoy that more than the reading. Sadly, I rarely got the chance to do so. But when I found the podcast, I finally had some people that liked some of the same things I liked. And I could finally listen to impressions and interpretations of other people. Before I found the podcast, I was also thinking about doing one myself, because I really like the format. Not solely based on Clive Barker, but his works would have been part of it. It never came to be, but it's good you guys have done it. So thank you very much, guys.
All right, that was
Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah.
Clive Barker's son.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate the joke, and we'll keep your privacy.
Yeah. Well, and one. Yeah, there was a little bit of a twist and turn there with and I read The Thief of Always and I didn't like it. I'm like, what?
What a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But thank you, Cliff. Yeah. Cliff, that was really meaningful, and what a nice experience you've had with computer games and books and all that.
Yeah,
it's great to find a podcast that talks about the stuff that you like.
So we had barely started the podcast, right? We were on we'd done like 6 episodes, and all of a sudden there was news that there were going to be screening a sort of a director's cut footage of Nightbreed, right, at Mad Monster Party.
That's right.
Yeah, and so I went there, and I had an interview with Russell Charrington, who I didn't know who he was at that time, but he was the one who took the footage, that he got it from Mark Miller. He's a friend of Clive's, and he took the footage and edited it with an editor, Jimmy Johnson, edited the footage together to make a coherent version of the movie using the American DVD cut in with this VHS footage that had never been seen before. And so they called that the Cabal cut. And there was a screening there at Mad Monster Party, which was a huge deal. And during our interview, before the screening started, I talked to Ann Bobby, and she said, and she was really big into the Occupy New York movement, and Occupy Wall Street. I'm sorry. That's what it was called. Occupy Wall Street. She was really big into that. And she said, and then Craig Sheffer, who was sitting next to her, said, if this doesn't come out, people are going to occupy Morgan Creek. And Ann Bobby said, Occupy Midian. And she said, I came up with that. That's my idea. And she said, I get 10%. And you can hear that on our episode 7. And later on during the screening, during the Q&A, she sort of repeated that, but she said it like it was the first time again. And so all these people, when you talk to them about it, they're like, well, I was there when she said Occupy Midian for the first time. I'm like, no, you weren't. I was. But,
when you come up with a nice iconic thing like that, you're going to reuse it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that whole thing, we heard Occupy Midian, and I'm like, I called up you and Roger, and I was kind of spiraling like, oh my God, this is huge. We got to do something, right? And we tried to get the domain name, but it looked like Russell Charrington had bought it already. And our idea was like,
while he was at the bar.
Yes. And so our idea was that, like, hey, if we don't do this, if we don't start this movement, somebody else is going to do a sort of a lackluster, half-assed version of it, which is what's been happening with petitions in the past, right? The petitions get like 800 signatures and then they fizzle out. But we had a podcast, we had social media, we had a blog, and we dedicate an hour of our time every week or more, right, to Clive Barker stuff. So we sort of decided, hey, let's sort of kick this off, this movement, Occupy Midian. So you created the petition, and Roger set up the Facebook group, right? Yeah, and I was still stuck in there in the convention, but we kind of got all this stuff going, and I also had planned on making a website, but there was already, couldn't do that.
I think it was the day after you got back to the hotel, right? So you, me, and Roger were talking on Messenger, I think. And you had just gotten back from watching the screening, and that's when we all figured, hey, we should start something, Occupy Midian.
Yeah, Occupy Midian, right? That got us a big string of interviews. We interviewed Simon Bamford. We interviewed Ann Bobby. Both. I had the short in-person interviews there on the spot, but we could really do a good job by doing them over Skype, on our podcast, and really having the time to talk with them. Because when you're at a convention and you've got people in line behind you, it's not the same, right? You feel a lot of time pressure. You feel self-conscious. Yeah. You're worried about if your microphone is working right.
And the representation might be like, shoving you out of the way, like, okay, we got to keep this going. Don't have time to do this.
Did you buy an autograph or what?
Right.
Although at that point, those two didn't have somebody like that, which was nice. But I also had Richard Ball in the background holding up a puppet of himself from Night Court and screaming at people as they walked by. And so that also made it kind of difficult to do that interview. Yeah. We had an interview with Nicholas Vince, actually. When we were talking to him, and we'll get to that clip in a little bit here, but we had mentioned that previously we'd had him on episode 72, and so that was here we are doing episode 500.
Fine, apart from the fact that I'm squeaking when I say hello. Hello.
That's okay.
Hi, Nico.
Hello.
It's Jose and Ryan here.
Hey.
Hello, Jose.
Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Too.
So this is episode 72, and it's our third time talking with you on this podcast.
Wow. 72 is an awful lot.
Yeah, here we are on episode 500. I thought that was funny.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny because I remember thinking at the time 72. This is a lot. I didn't think we were going to get to 100.
Yeah.
And now here we are. What a trip. What an awesome trip.
And so Nicholas Vince was kind enough to talk to us for our episode 500. So we'll go to that right now. Here we are on our 500th episode. We've got Nicholas Vince here, and you were one of our very first interviews, when we just started thinking about doing interviews.
It's an extraordinary achievement, guys. Consistently, you find interesting people to talk to, and you have decent conversations with them. To keep that going for 500 episodes, I know. I think
we had a clip that from our episode 72 where you were on there, and you said, "Wow, 72 is an awful lot."
Little did we know at the time. Yes.
Yeah.
That we've all come so far. I mean, back in the day, there was no director's cut of Nightbreed, and you hadn't put out any of your books yet. And it was truly amazing to be able to connect with you. You were like our second interview. I think the first was Simon.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And he told us the story. I think was it Simon that told us the story that he had blue hair. No, I think it was you, Nick, that said when you were in school, you met Simon, he had blue hair, right? So that's one of the things I still remember. I was kind of nervous because I was like, oh my God, it's Nicholas Vince, the Chatterer. And nowadays it's so much more rewarding to just be able to enjoy talking to you as a friend and have this kind of like intimate conversation. I feel like we've gone so far in the last 12, 13 years. Yeah. And I'm so happy that you made it to this episode with us.
Well, thank you. Well, so what year are we talking about that you started?
Well,
2012. It was January of 2012. Yeah.
That's it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because then, my life changed immediately because I was working full time in an office when we spoke. If it was back in January, February 2012.
That's right.
Well, that was our very first episode ever. So in episodes, it would have been 12 or 13 when we talked to you.
It was around that time.
Yeah. So I think so. Yes, I'm probably just gone back to acting and writing at that stage. So wow. So 2012. So yes, we're now coming up for 13. Yeah. So 13 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot has happened.
And you had the chattering with Nicholas Vince, right, on Google Hangouts.
That's right. I had chattering with Nicholas Vince on Google Hangouts later, and then of course during lockdown we had the chattering hour,
which was produced by Chris Rowe, right?
Yes. Chris Rowe.
Do you have plans to go back to like a format like that?
I was thinking about this the other day. Chris and I do talk about it, but to be honest, you know how much work this takes.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to an age now where I'm thinking, okay, what do I really want to concentrate on? What I really want to concentrate on is writing. Going back to you guys, congratulations. Yeah.
But it's been tremendous to see how all of us have flourished since 2012 until now. I guess once you got off of having the regular day job, that's when you felt like now I have space to do all the things I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Jose and I are still stuck with our regular day jobs.
I know.
Yeah, and I do admire you guys for doing for doing that.
Well, thank you.
But this comes with old age, basically.
Of course,
because I'm now officially a state pensioner.
We're definitely super happy that we've been together for so many years, and that we've been able to talk to you and ask all the little questions that nag us when it's 2 a.m. and we can't sleep. It's like, how did Chatter get eyes in Hellraiser 2? Now we know. Now we know. Everybody just has to go back to our little book of interviews and listen to our episodes where you've been a guest, and they'll be able to hear all the little behind the scenes stories of how you came up with your books and all that. So thank you for taking this journey with us. It's been really an amazing set of years.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for having me on and back.
Oh yeah, we need to check in more often. It's just time's going by so fast.
Yeah. Trust me, the older you get, you find that happens a lot more as well.
Yeah, it sure does. And we're back, and that was so nice to talk to Nicholas Vince. We were talking about I Am Monsters kind of at that same recording, and so there's a little bit of weaving in and out of that, and we'll see if I was able to kind of edit that to focus on the 500 part. Another one here is Peter Atkins talking with us about episode 500 that we recorded during our actually prior to our Wishmaster commentary. Well, welcome back to episode 500, and now we are talking with Peter Atkins, our longtime friend. And I tried to count how many times you've been on the podcast, and I couldn't do it. I was searching through our website trying to figure it out.
At least for just me. How boring.
Yes. Yeah, and then plus other ones where
I was part of a gang, like the 300th episode.
Yeah.
And you didn't, it wasn't a watch along, but you did. There was a 300th episode, and there was a
Halloween special called
a Halloween special, right?
A coffin full of candy.
A coffin full of candy. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. You've been with us in a lot of Halloween episodes, at least 2 or 3 that I can remember. So it's become almost a tradition to have you around Halloween time.
Well, let's keep that tradition going. That would be great.
And it's so good that every time we're talking to you, you're so generous with your stories. And it's been a great let's see, how long have we been doing this? Episode 500 is like, Ryan, help me out here. Has it been 14 years?
We're on our 14th year, so 13 and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do remember reading your books before I ever got a chance to actually talk to you or meet you. And I think the first book that I've read from you was Morningstar, or The Vampires of Summer. And
that's handy.
It is handy. Yeah.
I would have put it up here, but I listened to the audio book, so you can't really.
Narrated by the Dark Pope of Hell himself. So
that's right. That's
a good way to go.
Which reminds me, Sarah was telling me the other day, Ryan, that she was listening to podcasts on the way to work because she's got a new job, but she's got to commute a lot. And one of the things she started playing was Call of Cthulhu. And guess who narrates that book? It was Doug Bradley as well.
Oh, really?
So,
really?
Yeah, she was just listening to that on the way to work, and she had a blast with that. Yeah. But
that's cool.
But I remember some of the first times that we ever started trading messages, Pete, was maybe around Doug Bradley's forum, because you used to hang out there every once in a while and answer some questions. And I think that was the first time that I actually traded some messages with you.
Doug Bradley had his own forum?
He did. Yeah.
Oh,
he had
wow.
his own...
Doug's, and forgive me if I know that there was a, oh no, I was going to say there was a Clive forum.
Right.
I know there was a Ramsey Campbell forum that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
At Doug Bradley
message boards were so cutting edge and of the future for 3 or 4 years, and now it seems it's like talking about phonographs or radiograms. It's like, oh yes, message boards.
Oh, I used to do the
we
bulletin board systems where you dial into somebody's computer and then it would pull up message boards and it was your turn to, post replies and messages, and then you hang up and somebody else could dial in, and then that computer was dedicated to just doing that.
Oh, you are what they call an early adopter, Ryan.
Yeah.
I knew
BBS.
nothing of these. In fact, I mean, I apologize so much, Joe, for not making the connection. If we'd been
that's perfectly understandable
on the forum, because I hadn't realized the prior connection, because my memory of being brought in to meet you guys was actually through Rob, who was with you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure Jose had a handle and not his real name on
7
there.
or 8 years ago, I think, right?
Yeah. So I think this goes back a while, because Doug Bradley's forum doesn't even exist anymore. But at the time, you could ask questions and stuff like that. And I think I remember one time you showed up at the forum and you were telling me stuff about how you shot The Forbidden with Doug and Clive at a florist shop in Liverpool. I think you mentioned something also about, I had started to make early plans for my podcast, which at the time was just me recording myself talking. And I kind of did a reenaction of the opening of that Hellraiser 3 script where Pinhead is resurrected in a bordello.
That version. Yeah.
And I remember you actually listened to it and you said, "Hey, that was a good job, Joe."
Oh, good.
Well,
I'm sure it was.
I had Fever, the priest, was talking to reanimated Pinhead, and I kind of recorded my rendition of that scene with a dialogue. And that was the time that I was trying to get a podcast off the ground, but it was just an idea that totally never went anywhere until Ryan came up with the idea for the podcast, and we really got into the technology of it.
I know. And I mean, I know you just don't want stroking and empty praise, but I mean, congratulations. I mean, 500 episodes of anything is really impressive. Like if a comic book gets to number 500, it's like, my God, how did they do that? TV shows, there's no such thing as 500 episodes of a TV show. Well, maybe
I always was intimidated to start reading X-Men.
No police procedural ever reached 500.
Right.
So,
I always felt intimidated by reading like X-Men, because it's like, if I buy like number 367, do I have to go read all the other ones to know what's going on? And so I never did that. And I wonder if our podcast is going to get like that too. People feel obligated to listen to our horrible first episode. It sounds really bad. I mean, our sound quality was awful at the start.
But these last 14 years have been really good for us, and we've had the chance to connect with a lot of people like you and actors, authors, directors. And it's been such a rewarding experience to be able to talk to you guys and share our love for this, and then feel the love back from you guys, because you come on the show, you talk to us, and it's just, I've gotten so many things that I probably would never have gotten in my life if I hadn't had the chance to be able to talk to you guys personally, and questions that have been burning in my mind since forever. Right. I mean, that's the best part of being able to interview.
No, I understand. Now tell the truth. What percentage of the answers to those burning questions have been deeply mundane and disappointing? A reasonable percentage, right?
Right. I wouldn't say that they were mundane and disappointing. Mundane for sure, because we all live in this world and we know how things work. But I feel like sometimes, even knowing that it was just like a colander instead of like an actual supernatural object, I think
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
that shows the magic of movies. My key from Midian is just a piece of PVC piping that someone put some putty on it, but it looks like, on camera, it looks like the key of Midian, right?
I bet there's some B movie somewhere where some fucker's got a colander stuck on his face with a hoodie over it.
Oh, yeah. Right, with a bunch of wires sticking out of it. Yeah.
I'm sure maybe Ryan will know the movie Tetsuo, the
Iron Man.
Yeah, the Iron Man. Yeah, I'm sure there's a colander in there somewhere.
Or the Muppet movie, right? Didn't they put a colander on Kermit the Frog's head to liquefy his brain?
That's right. But to go back on
the thing is, if they're already in on the joke in the sequence, I don't think it counts. I think for the episode in the future that we'll dedicate entirely to colander use, it has to be non-ironic. It has to be budget conscious and yeah.
Oh my God, what have
somebody
I done?
saying they'll never notice.
Are you Googling it right now, Joe?
I am. But anyway, but yeah, in answer to your question, no, it doesn't feel like boring. It feels fascinating because that's how it was done. And sometimes you get the genius of it is when you're able to do something fantastic with just a cheap trick, right? I mean, I think it's all about the illusion of cinema or the illusion of special effects or anything like that. Right. It is part of the charm of it, I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
All glorious accidents. I think I'd heard this before. It's not like, breaking news or anything, but I read it recently, sadly, since we lost David Lynch.
That's right.
So somebody said they were somewhere early in season 1, they were shooting something. I can't remember what scene it was. And there was an electrical fault and the lights in the room started flickering. And the AD or the DP or somebody was about, and Lynch said, no, keep going. This is fantastic. And it looks great in the episode, but it was not only not pre-planned, it was literally an accident that he just filmed through. And
wow.
There is such a thing as happy little accidents, right?
Happy little accidents or even mistakes. You guys are so young, but are you aware of the British glam rock band Roxy Music from the 70s?
Yeah, okay. Brian Ferry.
Yeah, Brian Ferry was the leader, and Brian Eno was a sort of resident wacko genius.
And he came from Genesis. Yeah.
Early Genesis. He went on to be a big producer, to produce U2 and all kinds of things. But sometime in the mid to late 70s, he and a partner came up with not a card game, but a box of cards for creators to use when they were stymied. Like, so you're trying to make a movie, you write a song, write a book, and you're stuck. So you randomly pick out a card and it will say something to you. And, some of them were sort of oblique phrases and some of them were very specific, like, start again. The thing was called Oblique Strategies.
Yeah, Brian Eno's, right?
Yeah, Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies. He did it with a partner. I can't remember the partner's name. And one of the cards I always remember, it was a little fakey that he used thy instead of your. But one of the cards was honor thy mistake as a hidden intention. And I always thought that was pretty great. But something that you screw up, it's like, no, your unconscious knew what it was doing.
Have you seen the movie The Sword and the Sorcerer by Albert Pune?
Not for 40 years, but yes.
Yeah, so there's a scene where he stabs the sorcerer and he stumbles and falls off a cliff, and that was real. The guy actually fell off the cliff, and the camera followed him all the way down, and you see him going like this, and it was a real guy that fell to his death, and they kept it in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that had a darker ending than I expected.
Yeah, so that's not a happy accident, right?
Anecdote.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Wow.
I always get it when I knowing that when I see that. I remember when I was a kid seeing that and thinking like, wow, that's not a dummy. That's not a mannequin. That's a real guy. I wonder how they did that. And now knowing, I get kind of a chill watching it. It's like, that's the last moments of that poor guy's life, wearing a slimy mask and stuff.
Yeah. It's that's an interesting existential question for all of us, I guess. Would you rather have your last moments of life preserved on film or not? Like, I guess we won't get to ask that guy until we join him in the great beyond.
Right.
But, this way, his last moments of life are like, we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good
depends
point.
how you die, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're falling heroically to your death, still acting, it's like, bravo. Let's preserve that. If you're gasping for breath on a ventilator, losing control of all your bodily orifices,
no.
You don't want that shot.
But the last 14
well, that's a
years,
downer, isn't it? So that's
yeah. Sorry,
but the last 14 years, I think there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of news. We've all grown a lot. We've all done a lot of stuff. I mean, I know that in your case, you've put out a few more collections. You've been featured in a lot more anthologies. You've had things like Wishmaster come out, a novelization of Wishmaster, right?
Yeah, by Christian Francis, yes.
That's right. And you also had Hellraiser Bloodline script finally came out in multiple formats, including mass market paperback.
The old ways are the best. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Currently, All Our Hearts Are Ghosts is available, kids, for a mere $9.99. And in my head, I regard that as the equivalent of the mass market paperback release. It's like it used to cost you $15, now it's $10. Thank you for the random opportunity to throw a plug in there.
It's a perfect time to buy that book now.
Perfect
again.
time.
Yeah,
I still have a bookmark in mine.
Yes.
Not good enough to finish.
No. I drag it around with me on vacations and stuff. It's just I have a hard time finding time to read because of this podcast. Sure. But when I go on vacations, I drag it around with me, so it's getting a little beat up. So thank you very much for coming on our 500th episode. We really appreciate it.
You bet. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, guys. I was here for the 300th. I'm here for the 500th, and I hope I'll be here for the 1,000th.
Well, thank you, Peter. That was great. We really appreciate that. He's one of our favorite people to have on the podcast because he feels like one of our co-hosts.
Got my Wishmaster tape over here.
All right.
Within grabbing distance always.
Yeah.
Just like the book. Just like our book, right. Occupy Midian.
Yeah. You have the other one without the stripe on the front too, right?
I haven't bought a copy of that one.
Oh,
yet.
Really?
That's right.
Occupy Midian became huge. I guess what I would add to that is that Russell Charrington was getting interviewed by magazines, Empire Magazine, Fangoria, I think. Frank had ran a big article about it, and then I even got interviewed by Entertainment Weekly for their website, which unfortunately they took that down, so you have to get it out of the Internet Archive.
Okay.
But it was part of a larger article. They talked to me for half an hour, and they used like 2 sentences of what I said. But
that's always like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 sentences.
Yeah. But Occupy Midian was huge. And so just for people who don't know or coming into this a little later, it became screening the Nightbreed Cabal cut became a thing at not only at conventions and film festivals. Russell was kind of touring with it all over the world. There were new special posters made for each event based on the fan feedback. Russell would make little edits to it and cut out things, or if something didn't make sense, he would, remove it and stuff like that. And they got to 6 different versions of just the version that they screened at festivals and stuff.
Once you start tinkering with that, then where do you stop?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that they ended up putting out the director's cut when they did.
Yeah.
And
I also really love the Blu-ray Cabal cut. We did the audio commentary for, right?
In a way, Occupy Midian and the discovery of those Nightbreed tapes at the old Seraphim Studios kind of was the foot in the door that helped our podcast become even more spread out to the corners of the fandom. We were doing it anyway, so who knows what would have happened if it wasn't for Occupy Midian, but that really helped because there was a lot of footwork being done by a lot of people at the time, and a lot of the community was getting super engaged with it, and we were right there in the middle of it. So we had that privilege of being able to get that foot in the door.
The Occupy Midian group had gotten up to like 13,000 members. I think the signatures, we got 12,000 signatures.
Do you remember you printed the whole thing and you sent a box with the whole petition to like, to Clive Barker's address? That was fun.
Yes, and we autographed it on the top.
Yep.
Yeah. We autographed a letter that went with it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. And there was a time when we had a goal to reach 5,000 signatures. Like, hey, let's get to 5,000 signatures. And then when we hit that, we said, okay, now let's try for 10,000. And people got so mad that in their mind we were moving the goalpost. But to us, it was just like, if 5,000 signatures is good, 10,000 will be even better. Our goal was to try to convince Morgan Creek that this was viable, that they could allow it to get, that they could invest enough to put it onto a new Blu-ray release.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the 10,000 came from other people that told us, well, we should keep it going and try to go for 10,000. But I think someone told us, 10,000 would be best. We probably should amp that up to 10,000. And that's why we did it,
Yeah. But, even 5,000 was better than 800 on the previous petition that somebody else did.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and we had people mad. We had one guy, I'm not going to say his name, but actually he was somebody who also created a opening song for us, but he had shaved his head when we got to 5,000 signatures. And so for him, 5,000 was the goal, and that was it, right? That was the big thing. And then all of a sudden, like, we moved the goalposts, and
I think he's done okay with that. I think he understood it. Yeah,
he was really mad.
What you're talking about.
He quit the Occupy Midian group.
Oh, I'm still friends with him. He's doing good. No, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. Also, when the director's cut came out, it was only a North American release. And so there was a lot of anger about that when what are you doing celebrating that? It's not fair. It was filmed in England and we can't even watch it here.
Yeah. Luckily now I think that is already available, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Arrow picked up the slack, but it took a lot of time to negotiate all the international rights and stuff to get that to happen.
That's true. But I always knew it was just going to be a matter of time. And then especially when, nowadays something awesome comes out, like the Hellraiser box, like the first 4 movies. And people are like, well, when is this going to come out in my country? And then, usually the next year it comes out on a region 2 or whatever.
Yeah. So, but Nightbreed did take like 3 or 4 years. It was a long time in between. And Hellraiser ones, the Arrow stuff comes out in England first, and then in the United States, like the next year.
My main concern was just getting the director's cut released. Once that happened, I knew that the director's cut would eventually take over everything. And it's true. Now, if you see a movie playing, a channel's playing Nightbreed, it's usually going to be the director's cut. Yeah. It's not going to be the theatrical anymore. Although I don't have anything wrong. I don't have anything bad to say about the theatrical. Sure, it's a little rushed, but it's the movie that I still loved. I got into the whole Occupy Midian because I loved it.
Well, it was, despite its flaws, it was good enough for people to want more, right? To want to see what it could have been. And it's like Hellraiser Bloodline in that way.
It's been a good 14 years in the sense that we've seen a lot of stuff come out. We've seen a lot of stuff be released. Back when we started, there wasn't almost any merchandising about Nightbreed out there. There were books that were out of print, and there was like a DVD made on demand from like the Warner Archive or whatever it was called. But there wasn't anything else. And now there's a whole ton of stuff. There's releases, there's like box sets, there's t-shirts, there's, I don't know, there's so much stuff. There's little figurines. There's there's going to be like figurines for Nightbreed eventually from the company that was working on those new Hellraiser figurines that we mentioned in the Nick Vince episode. Right. I think they might also be working on Nightbreed. So, one of those things that we can't say for sure. But even movies that I never thought would see the light of day, like Rawhead Rex or Transmutations, now they're out in Blu-ray as well. So it's been
4K.
It's been a crazy 14 years for sure.
And do you remember we even had Crystal Rain doing the Occupy Midian report?
Oh, she did a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah. And she wrote reviews and stuff.
That's right. Yeah. She did a whole blog where she would clip articles from websites, and then
and that was what got our attention. We're like, hey, somebody else is doing Occupy Midian stuff. We should collaborate, and with her, and so that was kind of the idea.
She was a huge fan of Nightbreed as well. I think she's an
and her
artist
fiance, who is like her husband now, but back then he was her fiance.
Right. We brought her into the podcast to talk to us at one point. I think we did the little Occupy Midian report.
Yeah, and
that
so
was interesting.
that all kind of led to us expanding the blog presence and hosts and stuff on the podcast. So we had all kinds of people working on things for the blog. We had, do you remember Andrew Kopp would do reviews of comic books,
classic comic reviews. That's right.
Yeah. And Rob Reidenauer was taking over the news articles, and he did all kinds of news and reviews.
Robbie, miss you, man.
Yeah. And we had Marcus Williams doing the art episode, the art reviews, art books, like Imaginer books. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would also get on our podcast episodes about that. And we had David Sharp coming on to talk about movies. That was kind of his thing. And this is something we've never really talked about, but there was an episode 70 that right now has nothing on it.
Right.
And the reason is because there was a particular person from Argentina who said, who wanted to, we thought, hey, why don't, we could have he's such a big Clive Barker fan, we could kind of bring him in and he could talk from his perspective and maybe write articles in Spanish, so we did that. And I set him up on the blog and everything. We did an episode with him, and he went on Facebook and just started ranting about us. He said, these guys brought me in and then they don't do anything. They don't give me anything to do. And he got really mad about that. He said that we were just in it for the money because there was a PayPal link at the bottom of our blog. And he said that anybody could make our website because it was just a WordPress website. And he just started bad-mouthing us. And I'm like, all right, okay. I don't know what's happening here, but never mind. Forget it. It's like somebody's going to badmouth us. Why are we going to promote him, right? So we took him off of the episode 70 and removed him from the blog and stuff.
Right. So unfortunately, sometimes you put your trust in someone. I don't understand what happened there either, but yeah.
Well, and you and I were working and had other stuff going on during the day.
That's right.
And so we're not going to have a huge amount of time to say, okay, now let's help you write an article, or, it was just kind of like, now I've set you up and, maybe at some time, the next time I have time, I can go over it with you.
But it's not just that you had set him up. You asked him if he wanted to do it, and he said yes, but then he wouldn't do anything. I think I want to celebrate more the people who helped us get here.
Yeah.
And the good moments that we had in the podcast.
We don't want to talk about all the bad times.
No.
Okay. Yeah. And so, no, I mean, we had a lot of great people helping us. And there was another person that said I had invited him to be a writer on our blog. And he said, okay, but just so you know, I hate Imagica. I'm like, oh, I just stopped kind of talking to him about it after that.
I'm with you on that one. You have my full support. What kind of monster doesn't like Imagica?
Yeah. And he just volunteered that. I didn't ask him or anything.
We were doing Kickstarters at this point, right? So we were having regular people who I love deeply that were becoming regular Kickstarter supporters, which is amazing because they kept us going for those first few years until now. And we even had a stretch goal once that we would go to the Texas Fretmare weekend, right? That was one of the triumphs of our podcast was me, you, and Rob. We got to go to Texas, to Fort Worth, Texas.
And Marcus and David.
That's right.
Yeah.
The gang was all here, like Clive said when we saw him for our picture.
Yeah, and right, exactly. And and it was really, Marcus was there with his fiance or girlfriend at the time. David was there, like, talking to movie people. He would run to the front of the line and go, press pass. Yeah. Rob got us an interview to talk about Hellraiser Bloodline with the director, which was like, that was huge.
That was enormous. Yeah. That was good. We got to talk to Kevin Yeager in a hotel hallway briefly.
Yeah. It's just sitting on the floor, totally like guerrilla style, right? My job was just to hold the microphone, sitting on the floor. And I think you were making a video of it.
Yeah,
and
David
Rob
was also.
Yeah, and Rob did most of the talking on it, and it
was good.
It was awesome. First on our list, we have a video from Don Bertram we want to put in here.
Well, congratulations, Ryan and Jose. You finally did it. The big 500th episode. Who would have thought? What dedication. You're both amazing. We don't deserve you. If I wore a hat, I'd tip it in your direction. I guess we do deserve you because you're still around. So all is good in that regard. I can't congratulate you enough for this. It's an amazing accomplishment on your part. What dedication, I must say. And a little shout out to Ed and Nina. Thanks for joining the sponsors. Appreciate that big time. I was trying to think of something a little different to send you guys, maybe as a celebration for the big 500th episode. And you know, we can always do art. I can always pull out an art piece and we could talk about that or something. But then I started looking at the other things that are on YouTube that involve Clive, and very few show him arriving anywhere. So I looked in my archives and I thought I would pull this video out. It's short, but we were privy one year, and I think it was 2007, I'm not really sure. But we were privy one year to the arrival, the time, and the PAs, and they helped us get to the spot when he arrived. So I'm going to share that with you, this in celebration of the big event. Now, again, it is short. Look around at the people in the video. You'll recognize some of them. And just to set it up a little bit, these were heady days. And the evening before, we had spent I forget how long, but a chunk of time with Clive in the gallery house at a table that I want to say there was probably 7 or 8 people there, but it was really an eye-opening experience. And if I remember correctly, I think Richard Kirk was there, one of the illustrators. I know Hans was there. Dang it, I can't remember exactly, but it was a wonderful afternoon. I remember my brother had talked to Clive about the frames and how that affected the picture, how important it was to the paintings. And we talked about music and a handful of things that, aren't of particular interest to everyone. And we knew that Clive, after seeing the Being Music CD and how he tied that into his art and the way he created his art, we knew that he liked certain types of music. So we brought that up and we brought him a CD, something that we thought he would love. So during this little video, 1 minute really video I'm going to share with you, you'll hear him talking to my brother about that video, that song. You'll also hear him thanking us for the conversation the night before and all. So take a look at it. I think you'll love it. I wanted to set it up for you a little bit so it would mean a little bit more. So again, my hat's off to Ryan and Jose. Keep up the good work. Couldn't do it without you carrying that flag. We appreciate you guys.
Hi. Hey, Clive. Guess what now? Good morning. Clive, I'm Magic. Pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Delighted to be here. Very good, very good. So much enjoyed the conversation. Thank you. Oh, my pleasure. Did you listen to the CD? Oh, it is glorious. I told you. The Silent Night. I didn't realize it would be a silent night on him. They're just happy as he is. I told you. Wonderful. Right this way. Right. Yeah, a bit of got you in there. I think up there.
And that was awesome. And thank you, Don. And that was really neat to see that kind of behind the scenes sort of a thing, with Clive pulling up in the car and everything. That's really cool. Next up, we have our chat with Marcus Williams and Joe Manco of Little Spark Films, reminiscing about Texas Frightmare Weekend and stuff. All right. Well, welcome. This is as part of our episode 500 now. We are going on to this is kind of our part 3, I suppose. This is around like 2016 to 2018, I think, around that time.
Yeah.
It's a little fuzzy. It's been a while. But yeah, we've got Joe Manco of Little Spark Films. We've got Marcus Williams. And we're going to kind of reminisce about those times, when we had a blog news team, and when we visited Texas Frightmare Weekend, and when we were really big into our Kickstarter fundraisers and stuff. Yeah. So how's it going? How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Still trucking.
Doing great.
We got to visit you guys. All of us got together at Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2017. Which
was it 2017?
Doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but this was 8 years ago? What is that?
Almost 10 years ago. We were at the hotel in DFW Airport, which Frightmare's not held there anymore.
Oh, really?
They have it at the Irving Convention Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time it was the Hyatt Regency at Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
That was fun, getting there. I arrived at the airport and I was calling Ryan, and I was talking to you guys, and then I went up and met up with Ryan. We took like a bus, and then I think Rob was going to check out the Hellraiser screening that night, so we didn't get to meet up with Rob until after
he didn't. Yeah, so I was going to go with Rob, but my plane got stuck because like some birds had struck the engines. Before the flight before it arrived for me to get on it, and so there was a big delay, and then I had to try to find somebody that could take Rob to the Hellraiser screening. And she ended up just taking him to the Airbnb instead of going to. So nobody went to that.
I went to it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And Marcus, did you go to that? I can't remember.
No, I didn't go to that.
Okay.
How was it, Joe?
Yeah, because I think that was like a Thursday thing. Maybe it was like way early. It was before the thing started.
Yeah, it was the day before Frightmare started, so it was on Thursday. But no, I went with Paul Taylor to watch Hellraiser, and it was like watching Hellraiser.
Yeah.
They did a little Q&A before the movie started. It had the Cenobites. Was it Doug, Barbie, Nico, and Simon? And then someone was the one talking to them. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah,
asking them questions. They told some quips before the movie started, and they didn't stick around for the film. So yeah, it was just a packed auditorium.
I'm sure Barbie was probably there. No, well, not for Hellraiser 1, probably.
No, she was there.
Was she?
Yeah, she was there. They were all there.
Okay.
One of the great moments that I was super excited for the Texas Frightmare Weekend was when you and Catalina decided to set up with us that interview with all the Cenobite actors at the hotel.
Yeah,
and I wasn't even sure what was going to happen. I was kind of like excited about it because it was like our first big like on camera like crew interview, and it was super awesome to do that with you guys.
I remember when you had to sign the NDAs. I'm like, oh my god, this is like an official thing. And then I sort of pulled Jose aside and I said, "Are we paying for this?" I don't remember talking about that. I was like, "Do we have money for this?"
Yeah, that was interesting. That was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah,
because you guys were setting up the lights and the mics and setting up the air conditioning in the room so you could turn it off so it wouldn't make noise during the interview. It was like, wow, you guys are on on the production side of it. You were like amazing. So you made it really easy.
And Doug Bradley later was like, "How come you guys didn't ask me to be on there?" And we'd sort of asked like too last minute to get him.
Yeah.
And I don't think it even got to him.
That's right.
Oh, I thought someone had asked him. I like Barbie. I thought Barbie asked him, and he was like, "I don't want to do that."
Okay.
I don't remember.
I guess it depends on who you ask, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but Marcus, and we also met you, and at the time you had a girlfriend there as well, and it was pretty cool. You had even brought like also your own camera and all that stuff. I don't know if you got to take any footage during the festival, but you also came prepared.
I did, but no, I didn't take anything out of the case actually. So
yeah,
I lugged it around,
really?
but never used it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. One of the fun memories also was sitting on the floor in the hotel with Rob Ridenauer, who couldn't make it today, and with Kevin Yeager.
A lot of noise, a lot of cosplaying, a lot of fun.
But Rob was a huge fan of not just Hellraiser Bloodline, which was what we were there for, but of Child's Play too, right? And so Rob kind of took the lead in doing that interview, and he was nervous about it, but it didn't show. I mean, I think he did a great job.
But yeah, that was fun. It was he was just on his way out to the hotel. And he was like, "Oh, you guys just want to do a quick interview here? We'll just sit down in this hallway and just do a quick interview." And I think David Sharp was with us. We did that quick interview, and it was very impromptu, right? It was. I did have some stuff that I put on paper.
We all got in using like press passes.
We had press passes, yeah.
That's right. And David would go to the front of every line saying press pass, and he'd go to the front of every single line. And I think after that, the Texas Frightmare Weekend made a rule that said that if you want to have press passes, only one person from your group can have one. Everybody else has to pay to get in.
Yeah,
which I can totally understand that. I mean, I think that we sort of took advantage. And actually, for us, the expensive part was getting there. The people that had to fly and stuff. I couldn't believe we were able to pay for all that with a Kickstarter.
Yeah, it was interesting. And Marcus, at the time, you were still, and you still are, painting and writing poetry, and you were collecting art, right? So you also got to buy some pieces at the convention, didn't you?
I did. I bought one sketch drawing. It's of a young man, and there's like a moon in the background, and the moon has a face on it. So it kind of reminded me of like Voyage to the Moon a little bit, a trip to the moon. It has like stars, and Clive signed it and stuff for me, and so that's definitely one of my favorite pieces I own, because that was the only Clive Barker artwork that I ever got to purchase in person from him.
Oh yeah, right. So, do you remember how long we waited in that line for the
like
signing?
6 hours, something like that.
It was.
We all kind of started getting to know the people around us, just hanging out. Right. There was a guy in front of us that had a Rawhead Rex bust. I don't think it was Fallon though. I think it was somebody else.
Yeah. And back in the day when we were doing the Imaginer books, Marcus, you were a great part of our discussions, because you joined us for a lot of those Clive Barker Imaginer books, and your insight on the paintings was really, really very cool to listen to. And as a collector, you kind of got into Clive Barker because of the art, and then the rest of it.
I brought the Imaginer 5 book with me. That's another thing that I had Clive sign. And he told me that he'd actually read my reviews that I did for the blog for the Barker cast. And that and he said he thought I was a great writer. So that is still like one of my top tier favorite memories ever, that keeps me going, writing and stuff, is just having those words from Clive.
Wow. This is the first time I've actually heard that he's read anything of ours on the blog.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. But before the convention, Phil and Sarah reached out to me, and they said that Clive wanted to talk to me and wanted my contact info. And I sent it over, and I didn't hear anything. And then at the convention, I introduced myself, and that's when he told me that. So.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And you're now also a published author through Encyclopocalypse, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So Christian Francis reached out to me a few years ago and said that he was working on an anthology, and if I had anything that I'd like to contribute. And I sent him some stuff, and he chose one story and 2 poems. So those are featured in the Encyclopocalypse of Legends and Lore, Volume 1. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I've ever been published. So thank you, Encyclopocalypse. Thank you, Christian, for making that happen, and to Mark. And last year I had another poem published in the Tales of Slay House 2024. So I'm finally published, and I'm currently working on a novelization for Mark Miller and Encyclopocalypse Publications. So I'm about halfway through, done with that.
Okay. Are you able to tell us what the novelization is?
Yeah, it's for a Australian horror film called Defenseless: A Blood Symphony. It's an entirely silent film. And Mark Miller told me that he wanted me to be experimental with it and include a lot of poetry. That's why he reached out to me and thought that I would be a good match, is because he thought poetry to go with this silent film novelization would be a good route. So it's a bit experimental, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for a silent movie, that's going to be a lot of description, a lot of experimental stuff. Oh, looking forward to that. So what's it called? Defenseless?
Yes, Defenseless: A Blood Symphony. It's an Australian film from I think the mid 2000s, very indie. But yeah, recommend it. It's about a woman who goes through these very harrowing experiences and eventually is able to take her revenge.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. We'll have to keep taking a look at and what's that Slay House? What who's putting that out? Is it? It's not from Encyclopocalypse, is it? It's a
no, it's by Slay House Publications.
Oh, Slay House. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
SLAY, not SLEIGH.
SLEY.
Yes.
Oh, SLEY. So we did a whole bunch of audio commentaries, right? We had started doing audio commentaries for all the Barker movies, and then we started moving into the Barker adjacent ones or things that he had cameos in. And the latter, we actually kind of did sort of in a live situation with everybody that we could invite. We just had a kind of a party at our Airbnb at Texas Frightmare Weekend for the worst thing, that one of the worst movies ever made, Barn of the Blood Llama, where they sort of coerced Clive into making an appearance, and his appearance doesn't even make any sense in the film.
It's just at the beginning, he was reading some text and someone recorded him, and then they put that at the opening of the movie. And it's a really strange movie. It's got a farm of llamas, and it opens with a llama playing a record and smoking a cigarette. It's really weird. The llamas are killers, and
there's a lot of dialogue that doesn't make any sense. Jump, tackle, and it's hard to remember it all because it all just sort of washes over you. And I haven't watched it again since Texas Frightmare Weekend.
Right. And a little bit of trivia. I don't know what happened to the disc after that night that we did it. The disc disappeared mysteriously.
Barn of the Blood Llama.
Yeah.
We're talking about Barn of the Blood Llama.
That was an awful movie.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but it was great. We were all in the Airbnb, and there was a lot of people there. A lot of
it's sort of like a Troll 2 in a way, where it seems like the director didn't realize that they were making something terrible.
Yeah.
Troll 2 is a work of art. It's a masterpiece when you put it up against Barn of the Blood Llama.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Troll 2 is competent.
Yep.
Yeah. Barn of the Blood Llama is hard. It's tough because it kind of leaves everybody speechless.
I have no idea what happened anymore in that movie. I don't ever want to revisit it.
Yeah, but that was kind of we had kind of a big party for Barn of the Blood Llama, right? I mean,
we went to Costco before we started our day, and I remember buying a lot of Topo Chicos because Joe, you're a fan of Topo Chico, right?
Yeah, I was drinking a lot of Topo Chico at the time. Yeah, we all were. But no, we had a bunch of friends show up, and we had also friends get a little too party heavy at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then anyway.
And I remember Crystal Van Etten, who is Red Van Ghoul. She was there with like her boyfriend at the time.
Yeah,
some friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. She helped with the Hellbound Laments. She was
really?
cool. Yeah. She helped get the Japanese translations for the Bushido box.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Nice.
With the samurais and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Katie, the makeup artist, was there, and Zoe was there.
Yeah.
So I forgot who else.
Katie is the one that I had asked if she could take Rob to the Hellraiser screening.
That's right. Yeah. She was doing some sort of like social media promotion for the Texas Frightmare Weekend page on Facebook, I think, at the time.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was so broke at that time. It's not even funny. I went to the convention, but this was around the time where I think we had just become like a one income house again. And it was like, oh my God, now the convention is going to be, I had to pay for signatures and all that stuff. So I was pretty broke back then, but now thank goodness things are better. But that was also kind of a weird happy-go-lucky period where I was like, well, we'll just see what happens. It was a little touch and go. Yeah.
I think, man, I don't even remember that Frightmare. What happened when it was all said and done? Was that the Frightmare or a cat died?
Oh, was it?
That might have been the Frightmare or a cat died.
I think I remember you mentioning something briefly while we were at the hotel lobby, something about your cat being sick. Now that you mention it, but
I don't know. As soon as we had such a great Frightmare, and then cat died.
Yeah.
But I know it was right before we shot the Torturer. I remember.
And Paul T. Taylor was there at that Texas Frightmare weekend.
Yeah. He was in our round table of Cenobites.
Yeah, he was all excited. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I think that was the first thing he'd ever been invited to where there were it sort of legitimized his Hellraiser movie and him as Pinhead to be invited amongst these other Cenobites actors who were in Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Yeah. And I know he got to meet Clive at that convention, and Paul introduced himself and said that he was in Hellraiser Judgment.
Yeah.
And then all Clive said to him was, "Welcome to the club."
That's pretty good. I mean, Clive's he really trashed Hellraiser Revelations, but he hasn't really said anything about Hellraiser Judgment.
Yeah. I haven't watched Judgment in a while now, but I remember thinking like, man, this is surprisingly a lot better than the last several ones.
Yeah, they made really good use of the money that they had, which is like, because they both were super like micro budget, for a Hellraiser movie. They're really low budget, but they made really good use and did some really creative stuff with Hellraiser Judgment compared to Revelations, which is just aggravating and horrible to watch.
Yeah. Right. We just watched Bloodlines the other day. We watched it on the UHD, the Quadrilogy of Torment.
Yeah. Yes.
So we watched that, and when did the movie come out? 96.
Yeah, 96.
Something like that. And the further away I get from it, the older I get, the more I start to think like, man, this does look like a made for Sci-Fi Channel type of movie.
That's right.
Some of the interior shots looked like a TV movie kind of thing. Yeah.
A lot of close-ups.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't mind that look. I dig it sometimes, like the Jason X looks like made for TV movie or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the older I get, Bloodline starts to look like that. And I think Judgment kind of looks like that now to me. At first, Judgment looked like, oh, this is lowbrow, high quality television, cinematic television. And now I'm just like, this looks like it's made for Sci-Fi Channel.
I remember the police station looking like pretty unconvincing. Yeah. Like it was just some guy's office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
was the one office over and over again.
Exactly. It's hard to believe that was so many years ago already, and that we've kept together through all this time, sharing our love of this stuff, making our own art. Like we make the podcast. I don't consider us to be artists, but we make the podcast. Joe, you make movies. Marcus, you paint and you make poetry. It's great to be in touch with you guys and have access to, you guys are so interesting and you've really helped the podcast move forward. And you've really put a lot of effort into helping us out. And I really appreciate your friendship over the years.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Marcus, if you ever want to come back on the podcast, we're happy to have you back.
Oh, I'd absolutely love to.
Okay.
I don't think I've been on since the 300th episode. So thank you for thinking of me and inviting me back.
Always.
Yeah, definitely.
You're always welcome. Yeah.
Congratulations, guys, on reaching 500.
You.
That's an incredible milestone.
Thank you.
Do you think we should quit at 500?
No.
Okay.
I think y'all should open up a TikTok account and start from episode 1 and just start releasing episodes on TikTok every day.
How long can a TikTok thing be?
I don't know, 10 minutes.
Is 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, the reels? I don't know. Well,
16 seconds to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Rob's just like, that's another chore.
I need to get a TikTok guy. Oh my God. Start clipping episodes.
I don't even have a TikTok account.
Well, thank you again. And I actually still need to pick up that Pinhead t-shirt myself. I'm meeting Doug Bradley next month in my hometown. He's coming to a horror convention here in Sacramento. And I want to buy that shirt and wear it when I meet him. So yeah.
Sure, definitely. That's going to be awesome.
And
then you can say, hey, Barker Cast, and I painted this one. That's awesome.
If I may share a few more memories though from Texas Frightmare.
Go ahead.
But I absolutely love getting to walk the convention floor with you both, Ryan and Jose, and just watch listeners of the podcast come up to you guys and recognize you and stop you and stuff. You were a bit of celebrities yourselves, so that was wonderful. And the Friday night when we were sitting and waiting for hours and hours to meet Clive, and hearing that, maybe he wasn't feeling well and things like that. And that's why it was taking so long. And there was one point, I don't know if you guys remember, but we see Clive racing down the hall wearing Crocs. And for whatever reason, I love that image. It's still in my head of just Clive in his Crocs going down the hallway. And on the final day, I wasn't aware that conventions like that tend to end early on Sunday. And I hadn't gotten to meet Barbie Wilde yet. And Ryan, I believe it was you who was like, oh, well, let's just go find her. And so we walked around and we found Barbie Wilde, and I got to get a signed book of hers.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for making that happen.
Oh yeah.
It's been a nice trip down memory lane. And like I said, I'm always here, and I love to talk to you guys and show up, don't be a stranger.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to show up, just let us know. We'd love to have you around.
Well, one more thing I wanted to mention really quick, because Rob's not here and we would have been talking about this, but the breaking news from the Reef, right? That all kind of started with Rob doing a lot of news blog articles for our blog, and
countless. With
just the two of us, we haven't really had the time to be able to make news blogs. We just keep up with the news on the podcast. Yeah. But yeah, there was a time we've got over 1,000 posts on our blog now, and that's in part because of Rob and all of the news stories that he did and reviews. Marcus, you did reviews, and Jose and I have done reviews, but Rob did a bunch of them too.
That's true. Yeah. David did some stuff too.
Yeah, he did.
500 episodes. Here's to being able to do a few more, and keeping up with everybody that we got to meet over the years, and have brought us to where we are today. I think you guys were instrumental in that, and I'm really happy that we got to reminisce a little bit about that today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This was great.
So now that was great, by the way. And so another thing that we started during this time period was audio commentaries. And for a while they weren't even numbered episodes. They were just like little bonus things that we tried to do. Something that I thought about a lot about our podcast is that we have lots of different types of episodes and different ideas. And what ends up happening is like they really all should be separate podcasts, but we're only two people and we only have one weekend a week, right? So that's why we do all these different things. We have D&D game, we have audio commentaries, we have news episodes, we have interviews, we have in-depth discussion about specific books and movies and stuff. And we do all of those different things in the same podcast because we're only two people, and we don't have enough time to make different, or money to make different podcasts for every single one of those things.
Yeah.
Most podcasts have one format that they stick to on every episode, and we don't have that. But I like it the way it is. And I don't think
it's an organic kind of thing. I mean, it grows limbs every once in a while. It grows an extra organ. It's for 15, if we're working for 14 years, it's going to change at some point. That's how we kept it fresh. And that's how we, even in behind the scenes, little things that people don't know that sometimes would cause a little bit of friction or a little bit of butting heads between you and me. Things like, the blog posts or making news episodes, or at the beginning, one of the reasons why we started splitting to news episodes and themed episodes was because we had a tendency in the beginning to make a news section at the beginning and then seg into the theme. And so,
or if it was an interview, we would do the news after the interview was over.
Right.
Yeah.
But then because the news were in the same episode and things were time sensitive, even if we interviewed 2 people in a week and we did news about it, for some reason we would just be like, oh, we can't put this in the can. We have to put it out. So sometimes we were putting out things as soon as we were making it, and we weren't having anything like that we could like space out our weekends. So at some point that we were working every single weekend on the podcast.
Well, and and when we would hang up, that's when I would have to keep on working because I'd have to edit it and post
now,
it and share it.
And now we can, take some weekends off because we've done like 2 episodes in one weekend, and we can separate the news
once in a while. Yeah.
Once in a while. Yeah.
It doesn't happen as much as I'd like. I mean, it would be nice to have more weekends off. And I feel a little more relaxed about every once in a while. We just don't have something on a weekend. And I think that's okay to do too.
Yeah. I agree. Sometimes you got to recharge, especially you having a family and a job that takes a lot of your time. Me also doing a job that keeps me talking for a long time every day. At the end of the day, sometimes you don't want to talk that much.
Right. Because you're on the phone with people.
Yeah.
Those audio commentaries, I circle back around what I was getting at was the fun thing for me about that was the crazy covers that we made for them, where you would kind of Photoshop us into the movie poster for whatever that movie was. Like
that's right. Like Hellraiser Deader. There's like Robbie holding a cat and a flashlight, like next to the other Deaders. Like there's one that's like Candyman that I'm appearing behind Candyman. There's another one with Revelations where I'm like in the Revelations room with the fake Pinhead, and I'm like,
and Transmutations where I was the doctor.
You were Dr. Savory.
Yeah.
Dr.
Or Dread, where I was putting the belt and the glasses. On my head, and I was like looking at my watch, like, is this supposed to do something? What's going on here?
Yeah. And the camera filming. Yeah, those were funny posters. I had a fun time doing them.
Yeah.
Another thing that we did, I think, I'm not sure if you mentioned that here in the notes, but we had fun doing the Duels of Blood too. That was kind of fun.
Right. Yeah. Duels of Blood. So we had a sort of a March Madness tournament style where we would pit characters against each other and who was going to win. And, we always expected it was going to be Pinhead, but it really wasn't. It was typically other characters. And what we discovered when we would run these things is that a lot of what happened in the course of it depended on who you pitted against each other at the start, because really good characters could get eliminated right away based on who they're pitted up against.
Sure.
And so our last couple of years, we started doing a randomizer that would randomize who goes against who, so that we weren't influencing the results. And so on the website, people would click on, there was like a little voting widget, and people could click on that every 5 minutes and cast their votes for who they liked. I remember Lori was really big on voting for Onaka and Butterball, right?
Yeah.
Because of Simon Bamford.
Yep.
Yeah. And
there were several hundreds of votes for some of the characters at once, sometimes thousands.
Yeah. And it would register based on your IP address. So I think that if somebody switched to their, they could do it once on their computer and once on their phone, depending on how many devices you have, you could game the system that way too.
It's right.
Not super sophisticated.
Oh, one funny thing that you also came up with was, the idea that we should do like April 1st, April Fool's Day, like articles,
God.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. That was fun.
We almost got in trouble with one of them, and so then I kind of have backed off from it. But our first one, I think, was that you were quitting the podcast because you were moving to a place that didn't have internet, or you only had dial-up internet, and there's a picture of you like waving out of your car window.
I was actually moving, but the second part was totally
so the moving part was true. So it's like the Exorcist, right? They will blend truth with lies to attack us.
Yeah. And then another time, I think I came up with the idea that Transmutations 2 is happening, and I made a mock teaser poster for that. Anything can be created again,
right? Yeah, and the big one, the one that got us in trouble, was making the announcement that the Scarlet Gospels was going to be delayed for one more year.
Yeah,
and then so the publisher saw that post because it was getting shared all over the internet, and the publisher saw it and they said, "Where is this coming from?" They called up Mark Miller and they're like, "How did this happen? Who's saying this? Are you guys saying this?" And Mark's like, "No, we're not saying that." And then he called me to say, "Ryan, do you know where this is coming from?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm sorry. I said, "It's April Fool's. It's April 1st. I would hope somebody would." And he's like, "Oh man, I didn't even think about that."
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of do an apology and stuff.
But I like making audio commentaries because one of the things that we came up with was because of the book Clive Barker's A through Z of Horror, we decided, hey, why not just to open up the podcast to other themes and other things a little bit? Why not just do commentary tracks for some of those movies that Clive Barker recommended on the book?
Well, and it helped a lot because we'd run out of Clive Barker movies to do commentaries on.
That's one of the main reasons as well.
Yeah.
But also, it ended up being a fun thing to do because I remember one time I was watching Halloween and I thought I still had the app installed on my phone, our app, podcast app.
Yeah.
And there was a section for commentaries and I started playing it while I was watching the movie. And I thought, actually, we didn't do a bad job at all. That was actually pretty decent.
If you ever go back and re-listen to our episodes, the commentary ones are really fun to listen to.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I mean, and I'm really behind. I used to always listen to our podcast after it came out, but now I've gotten way behind. I'm on 300 or something.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
You have 200 episodes to get through. That's just like some 400 hours of content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've got, I don't know, because I listen to a lot of other podcasts and, with ours, I listen to it when we're recording it and I listen to it when I'm editing it.
You lived it.
To be professional, I always I want to hear it the way everybody else is hearing it. And so that's why I do that. But it's like, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Sometimes you just also want to take a break.
Yeah.
So now we'll get to the current era, which is post Kickstarters, right? So now we've got Patreon. We've got a book that we wrote based on our Occupy Midian experience. And it's a lot of interviews that we transcribed and stuff. It looks like that, but without the stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Clive Barker was kind enough to agree to let us use his image on the cover there. Yay. Oh yeah, that's the interview with Ann Bobby.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
We've started the book club of blood, right, where we're discussing Clive Barker's stories one at a time as kind of like a book club format. We try to bring people on. So if you're a listener and you're interested in joining us for one of those, you hit us up. Maybe we can do that.
In that book, we also included our little drafts of the stories that we made for
yes, right.
Midian Unmade, right?
Yeah.
You had Jerry's Right Hand, and I had Diaspora.
Yeah.
With some Nightbreed that I created.
Yeah.
So,
our stories were turned down for the book Midian Unmade.
This is my boarding pass for Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
This
and
is
so to me, the idea of having a short story that, a Nightbreed related short story that was turned down kind of made us more Nightbreed, right? We were the rejected stories.
That's right.
Yeah. And so in fact, we made a chapter, that chapter in our book is called or something like that, dead things that have, that don't have they're
over the years.
Awesome.
You've sent me your happy holiday cards. They go right into my folder.
Yeah.
Right into my folder. Clive Barker stuff and Barker Cast stuff. And
dead things that don't have enough sense to stay in the ground.
Back in 2016, I was printing up stuff for how to create a successful Patreon.
Oh.
2016. That was almost 9 years ago. Took a while.
Because we'd always kind of toyed with the idea.
Here's your early card.
Oh, yeah.
Barker Cast.
That doesn't have the picture on it?
It does.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I only have a few of those left. I should probably make some more, but.
And this is my card, of course.
All right.
This is my card, just on one side. I gave a few of these back when we were in the
conventions.
Texas Fright, the conventions. Yeah. This was when I tried to find out how the Hellraiser rights changed over the years.
Oh yeah.
Always had a weak spot here between this part and this part. What happened here? Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end, you've got the Weinstein Company. So it's actually, that should continue on. Right.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't belong to the Weinstein Company anymore.
I've got notes here from when we did interviews. Fiddle Black, Jason Cook.
Oh yeah.
Question 1, how did this opportunity to publish Cabal came about? These are my papers that I would come up with.
Yeah.
300 copies. How many left? Is it sold out?
And when we interviewed him, it wasn't sold out yet.
No, it wasn't.
Which was surprising. I thought for sure that it would be in an hour or something.
Oh, in Texas Frightmare Weekend, we also did that awesome clip, thanks to Little Spark Films, of our Cenobite interview, remember?
Yes. Yeah, where we got together Nicholas Vince, Simon Bamford, Barbie Wild, Paul T. Taylor.
Here's some of the package that we got as press from Texas Frightmare Weekend.
Our
with
press
schedule.
Press pass. Front of the line.
Clive was in the developer room.
Yeah.
That's right.
For the photos that was his signature line, which we sat in for 6 hours for that.
Yeah, but this modern era has been really, really cool. We got a second breath of vitality by having people like Ed and Nina Martinez show up and join our team. It's always been very fun to have them join us and bring in their expertise from when they worked on Cenobium for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And recently we talked to them as well, right? So didn't they?
Here's our chat with Ed and Nina formerly of Cenobium. Yes. Okay, well, welcome. Now that we're on the part of the episode 500, where we're talking with Ed and Nina, Ed Martinez and Nina Martinez formerly of Cenobium, right? I've got my Cenobium shirt on.
Oh, it's wearing a Cenobium shirt. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Nina's artwork.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you've been a part of the fandom for such a long time, since I don't even know, man. When was that 1990 when you guys came out with Cenobium?
Yeah, but what sparked it was the fact that, the Hellraiser film came out.
Yeah.
And once it was out, and people started, the buzz about it started happening. That's when, Diane decided to make a magazine, and go to a convention, very first issue, and she went with issue 0. And then I came along, after I found out about her making issue 0, and I made issue 1, with her.
It was a way to rally the fandom. Back then, you guys were probably one of the first, if not the first.
We actually were the first, as far as we know. I mean, there was a couple of other, fanzine type things that came along, but it wasn't, before us,
You mean like before Dread and
yeah, we're before them.
I think chronologically, yeah, you guys were first.
Yeah, we would actually put that on the cover. It would say the first, the oldest, and still going strong.
There you go. Yeah, you guys were running since, I don't know, 89 or 90 until, I don't know, it was like the summer of 96, I guess, the issue 15 came out.
Yeah, I think it was 95. We worked on it. 96, it might have been the last issue we released. Yeah. And that was our only color issue. It was a color cover.
So you'd keep collecting stuff and wouldn't put an issue out until you had enough material to make a complete issue.
So if there was like a Fangoria Weekend of Horrors coming up and it was going to happen to have Doug Bradley or Clive Barker or somebody like that, we would rush to get something put together in time, for that convention.
Yeah. And then you were also providing stuff to the community through, stuff that you would send to Hellraiser, the Hellbound Web at the time, or it was
the Hellbound Web was a really big deal back then.
Had
the only thing we had,
Yeah,
it was
super
the first
huge
thing, the first technological gathering place.
Yeah, the internet.
Yeah, the good old Cenobite.com. Yes. Yeah. Which was created by Captain Trips, Matt Rexer, and a lot of stuff that they had there, like behind the scenes and artwork from
I gave them
storyboards and stuff. Yeah, that was all you that you gave them.
Pre-production design artwork, like for Hellraiser 3, like I got all these different drawings from Bob Keane that were of various designs for what the torture pillar was going to look like. And, I provided all that and scans of, the scripts, like that weird script that Pete wrote that never got filmed, where Pinhead has a vat of primordial ooze down in the basement of this brothel. I had script, Pete gave it to me and he said, it's okay if you let other people get it because, nobody is ever he wanted people to see his work, this is never gonna see the light of day unless, the fans get a hold of it, so
what's interesting about that is they could have easily taken some of those other Hellraiser 3 scripts and made other sequels instead of like, oh man, we need to make a movie fast. Let's adapt some other thing that wasn't a Hellraiser movie.
Well, it's because of money. Like, the bad Hellraiser scripts that, were not really Hellraiser scripts and they threw Pinhead in there. That's because they already owned them, so it wasn't anything. If they had to pay Pete for one of his old scripts that he didn't, get produced, that would cost them too much money, I think, is their reasoning.
Well, wouldn't they already have owned those scripts too?
No, they did not write those for them. Those were independently written. And, or I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that that's why, because over the years, they've gone back to the well of trying to steal ideas from various other scripts, but, nothing good.
Yeah. We just saw also, you guys sent us before we started this, you sent us a little clip from 1992 from a Fangoria Weekend of Horrors that is from the day when you two met.
In Chicago.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Nina and Ned?
Sure. I found the footage.
My archive of video.
Ed had various like bags and boxes full of old camcorder tapes, and I transferred what I could with my skill, and a few we sent to a photo place in Berkeley, and then a few our friend Steve and Keith transferred. But this one I transferred myself. And I was watching the video and I recognized, oh, we're in Chicago. I recognize this environment. And I had taken some still photos back in the day myself. So I recognized when I was on the footage. And here comes the costume contest. And, Ed used to be fully sighted, driving everywhere, and
shooting video.
Yeah, and so a lot of, your listeners know that he's blind now. So when I found this camcorder footage, it was literally like looking through his eyes, because back in those days you had the lens.
The viewfinder.
Your little window wasn't big enough, really, if it did pop out. And I don't think all the camcorders had the window that popped out. so you
this
could
particular one did. This one had a little side,
but it was tiny.
Side viewer.
It was very tiny, and it was great. It was great. He got panned across all the participants, and my friend standing next to me, Don McGrath, said, "Hey, someone's watching. Someone's filming us."
He was Lylesburg.
And, you can see me wave. Yeah, he was dressed up as Lylesburg. He used for his costume. He used that little jars of wax nose putty.
Yes.
To make the little Lylesburg sort of
Wounds
gills on his cheeks, and he made his own little, like, I believe it was like clay and paper mache little medallion. And
Joe owns the original screen used one.
That's right, the medallion. Yes, the Midian key.
Yeah.
I like that he's dressed in like a red robe, because in the movie Lylesburg didn't have a red robe, but red robe makes him look a little more priestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there wasn't such a big selection of costumes when you went to the stores as there is now. But
no, that was all homemade. His whole costume was handmade.
Yeah, there's like a pinhead and another guy, a Cenobite, with like these crosses coming out of his forehead. There was a Frank the Monster, a skinned Frank.
Skinned Frank in his bloody clothes.
And we'll be editing it in here so people will be able to see it.
And your Cenobite, Nina, was called Penelope with P-I-N.
Penelope.
Yeah.
And she
Terrific.
designed it and made it all herself.
Yeah.
But look at that. This
costume was vinyl and the head was latex.
I love the elements that you've added to the makeup, and the diamond-shaped cut that is in your forehead. That looks very Leviathan-like.
Yeah.
You could tell
and I tried to hide my hair. I had very long waist-length hair back then, and it really couldn't be hidden. It was very lumpy to try to do any kind of bald caps or anything.
Right.
So what I opted to do was make it look like I was wearing someone else's ponytail.
Yeah.
So you'll see I've got like a little flap of skin, and then I've got little like hooks holding it on as if the ponytail is held on.
Oh, that's great. I just realized that. That's amazing. What a great attention to detail. That's really cool.
And I remember when I was out the night before this, when we were out night clubbing, me and my cousin, and
because it was Halloween.
Yeah, it was Halloween, and we went to the nightclub in Chicago where Grandpa from Grandpa Munsters was there, and Eddie, and somebody pulled my hair, thinking it was it's just a fake ponytail,
but it was her real hair.
Oh my gosh.
And Ed, you went through that with one of your costumes.
Yeah, when I was an orc, I was dressed like an orc, and I had my real ponytail hair sticking through the back of it, and somebody grabbed it, and it was fake. But the funny thing about this whole thing is that when I finally did get to meet her and talk to her, and she's standing there in this costume, I always assumed, I know arrogantly, chauvinistically probably, that a girl like this, a pretty girl, that she didn't make this, that she must have had help, and so right off the bat, the first things I said to her is like, so who helped you with your costume, or who made your costume for you?
And I was all indignant. I made it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, did you do a life cast? And I'm like, yes, I did a life cast. And
There you
I did
go.
a clay sculpture. And then I did a slush mold. I sat in front of my couch watching TV and slushed the
and I'm all thinking
the positive back and forth.
I'm all thinking like, oh, she actually knows what she's talking about. Like she went through the stages of the processes, and I'm thinking like, oh, well, she knows what a life cast is,
And that's when the hooks got into your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
But one of the
Cenobite, all right.
And back then you couldn't just watch a YouTube video on how to do something like that.
No, not back in those days.
No.
Ironically, it is available now. Like you can actually go on YouTube and find somebody doing a step-by-step tutorial on how to do your own pinhead makeup, but it's not very good.
Yeah. But the reason that I brought up that video is also because over the years, and not just since you've joined our podcast, but you kind of ramped it up a little bit in the last few years. You and Nina have been like working on this YouTube channel and interviewing people in the movie effects industry, and especially related to Hellraiser. So you've had quite a lot of stuff here in your channel on YouTube. that you've interviewed people that worked in the Hulu Hellraiser. You've had old interviews that you've done.
Yeah, the David Bruckner directed Hellraiser in 2022. Yeah, we got some great interviews. In fact, we are hired by a company in Germany to do some special features on that release that will be coming out very soon from this German company called Turbine.
There you go, Turbine. They're going to release the Hulu Hellraiser on Blu-ray.
Yes. Well, actually, it's going to be a 4K Blu-ray, like all the new, how 4Ks come out with not only the Blu-ray disc, but also a 4K disc.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And we get to do the special feature. I've always wanted to do that. One of them is going to be on Leviathan Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The stuff that the new Cenobites have, the metal parts. That's pretty cool.
Good thing about 4K releases, they're region free. So even though it's in Germany, we can buy it here.
Right. Yeah, it's an international company. You can order it.
And it really rounds out, more than 30 years of Clive Barker Hellraiser coverage.
And us, the fact that we met over Hellraiser and Barker stuff. And, at the time I was making a magazine, and we've come full circle to the point where paper and magazines are practically not existent anymore. They're old.
That's right.
And now we have you guys, the internet and podcasting.
Yep. Podcasting is kind of taking over for radio and TV sometimes, especially the video podcasts now. They're starting to become just like shows that you can watch on Spotify, not just audio, but video. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. But good job on that channel, because you also have old content like the clips you've been posting from 92, but you also have things with Bernard Rose talking about Candyman. You have Doug Bradley. You have interviews with Clive Barker. You have interviews with Tony Todd. So there's a lot of stuff to dip into.
Tony Todd is no longer with us.
That's right. I know. That's right.
We'll never have more footage like that.
Yeah. We will. He's still in the last Final Destination. I don't know if it's still in the theaters, but he's still there.
In fact, it's kind of a tribute to him, his last film. And I believe they kind of go into the characters, a little backstory of him more and stuff.
Yeah. And I think at one of the final lines in the movie, and without any spoilers, but I think the director, when they were shooting, they knew that Tony Todd wasn't
was not with us, not well.
So they kept the camera rolling and they said, hey, Tony, say something that you would want to say to all your fans watching. And one of the last lines in the Final Destination movie is kind of improvised on the spot. And it's a beautiful tribute. And I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys got to watch the last Final Destination to find out.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, I'm so happy that, this is the 500th episode. You guys deserve it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the fans, I'm very happy and pleased to be able to have given back. Nina and I both, look at how, we met thanks to Clive and Hellraiser, and, we're a family. All of us, we are the Hellraiser family. All the original actors, Cenobites, we keep in touch with them, through this podcast,
Yeah, and you guys have been with us. I mean, we're talking about kind of our current like Patreon era, but you guys have been with us before that. When we were also doing our Kickstarters, and you helped contribute a lot. You and Nina helped contribute to our Kickstarters, which was a really big help for us.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Like, we did some funny stuff. Like, we created our own Candyman hook hand.
Yes, that we could put in the video. Yeah.
And, so even though I'm blind and, I used to be involved with filmmaking and special effects and stuff, me and Nina, thank goodness that Nina is an artist and a painter, and she can help me with stuff still to this day. I still have my special effects workshop, and, we would still be involved with other like independent filmmakers, student filmmakers, Little Spark Films, or anybody who wants to tap us, and say, hey, can you give us advice or help us out? Tell us how to do an effect or whatever. Contact us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's great.
We always want to give back to the fandom because of all that we've gained from it.
You definitely have, and continue to do so with all these videos that you've been putting out. And like I said, if it hadn't been for you and the stuff that you found a way to supply to the fandom, scripts and images that kept the discussions alive, that kept us like engaged and interested, and having like a window to like, I remember back in the days of the Hellbound Web when there used to be the little newspaper called Leviathan's Lamentations, where people would talk
the
about
latest news,
right? What's going on in the Hellraiser world. And it's like, oh, they're about to make a pinhead go to space. And it's like, sometimes this would be from other people in conventions. Sometimes it would come from you. And, these little bits of news were what kept us, engaged and interested and wanting to know more about how the movies were born and stuff. So, thanks for being that part of the community and for still being with us today.
I wanted to be a conduit, from fandom and from the professionals. Like, as a special effects artist myself, I knew what to ask, for these kinds of interviews and stuff. And people like the Hellraiser, like I said, it was like a family, like the Hellraiser family, like Bob Keane, he reached out to me and he gave me, like we visited him on the set of one of his films when he and his crew were here in LA. I was on the set in LA with them, and they allowed me to work on Waxworks 2 with them. But also, he handed me the artwork of the box. He said, Ed, come here. And he took me over to a filing cabinet, opened it up, pulled out a envelope and said, here, take this home with you. And he allowed us to publish it in Cenobium. And then I turned that over to the Hellbound Web so the fans would be able to reproduce the box.
Simon Says artwork.
Oh man, that's so good. I still have those Corel files that were up on that website.
People have made boxes and made money, and I mean, there were people that were making like a solid crystal cube that had the engravings of the box all over it, and
acrylic,
they sold it with a little light up base, and stuff. And I got sent copies by those different box makers in appreciation, for allowing them to get the artwork, the Simon Says artwork. And, that was one of the only places you could get it, or, to produce your own box.
I remember the first time before Leviathan documentary ever was made, the first place where I learned that when you solve the panels of the box, you see the little engineer on the side.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That would never have occurred to me if somebody didn't tell me.
Yeah. I saw that.
What's good about the Leviathan documentary is that they actually show you.
Right. But I saw that being done first before the documentary on the Hellbound Web, because someone got the picture of the panels and they cut them up and they made it so you could see so you could see.
In fact, there's other faces too. There's like a screaming face like Frank.
Right.
There's a couple other things.
Yeah. He explains all that in the
documentary. And some replicas of the box don't have all that detail. They just kind of reproduce the same panel on all of the sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Even Marvel Comics, when they were doing the Hellraiser comic, they printed a black and white like little mini poster that you could cut out.
I have that. Yeah, I have that within hand range, but it's inside a box. I can't. It's inside that purple box I'm pointing at. But I do have that. It came out with the magazine.
Vintage.
Yeah, you could cut that up and glue it together and make the box. But I still have mine. I need to frame that thing. That was good stuff.
The Elysium configuration print framed on your wall.
Yeah, but every time you join us on our episodes, it's always such a great pleasure to have you, because you always have a way of remembering things and taking us back to the time when most of us couldn't. You were living there in LA and the Bay Area at the time, so you were close where the action was happening. So you had your in with the industry and stuff. So most of us could only dream to have the access that you had, but you kept some of the fandom alive, by
I tried to share. I wanted to share,
yeah.
And by having a camcorder always stuck in my hand, I captured some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I've never shared with anyone yet. I've been holding on to this footage from Hellraiser 4, direct, right on set interviews with Valentina Vargas or,
oh my God,
Ramsey and stuff like that. And it's like,
wow.
I want to use it. I want it to come out, and the public to be able to see it, but I want it to be, something like on a DVD or a Blu-ray or a 4K or whatever. So that last one that came out, the Torment of Terror 4K Blu-ray
quadrillion, or what is it?
Of Terror. I wish that I had been able to communicate with them before they published, because my footage would have gone well on that box.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
We always feel like that too. I kind of wish that people would ask us about audio commentaries, because we do them for ourselves anyway, for free. But
yeah, they can go online and listen to the ones we've done over the years. I think that's part of what makes having physical media worth owning.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that when you own something, it could disappear. You get a new computer and it's not on that store anymore, and you go to download it and it's not there.
Same YouTube. We're afraid of that too, that someday our YouTube channel could disappear,
Yeah.
Thanks for being a part of our podcast and being around us all this time and providing us with so many hours of conversation and entertainment and artwork and all this footage.
I've always enjoyed, like the fact that all the different things that I can contribute, like, getting Jeremy, the sculptor of the new Pinhead to be on, or, to get Jason Lyles,
he was really fun to talk to.
He was.
He's a guy, and he's done so many things. And I think that these kinds of relationships, they are continuing the family, like how you were talking Nick Vince, and he was saying like, oh, Jason, he's a great guy, I think that is just fostering more of this familial bond with the Hellraiser people.
I agree.
That's wonderful. That's really good. All right, we'll make sure to direct people to your YouTube channel as usual. And
thank you.
Yeah, we'll be having you in other episodes soon, but thanks for being part of this celebration today for episode 500. You and Nina, I consider you guys to be close friends.
Congratulations.
And I'm so glad I got to see the video of the day that you guys met today, which we will add to
because we told you about it on an episode, but now you actually see some of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's going to be neat as this stuff kind of drips out, that you find more things and add to the YouTube channel.
500.
Yay. Also, we had during one of our recordings for Jericho Squad, we had a chat with the Jericho Squad crew or cast, to talk about episode 500.
Our troop of rogue adventurers.
Yeah. Some of them cared more than others about our 500th episode. But I think some of them don't really think of themselves as being on the Clive Barker podcast, but we're going to be recording this here for episode 500 of the Clive Barker podcast. And coming off of the recording of our episode 497, which is Jericho Squad. So welcome everybody. We're talking about in episode 500, we're going over all the various eras and what's going on with the podcast. And one of our more recent, I say recent, but we've been doing this game for 5 years now. One of our more recent things is this Jericho Squad game that you guys have all been involved with. We started that in 2020, I think, under COVID.
Yes.
So, a D&D game over Zoom was pretty common back then and during COVID times. And also we couldn't do it any other way because we're all in different places States. In different time zones. Yeah.
It's been fun. I mean, I remember when you approached with that idea, and then I was like, I've never played D&D, but I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah. You kept talking about this choose your own adventure book that you read.
Yeah. The Fighting Fantasy ones by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson. I think one of those guys invented some sort of system.
Steve Jackson did.
Yeah. And I was a little anxious about it. I didn't know how to play D&D, but it's been pretty fun. A lot of math, a lot of roll dice, a lot of time dilation, especially during combat. But it's been a lot of fun. And you approached me if I wanted to also be a part of like coming up with a campaign, and I think at the
to
time
be a co-DM, so we would sort of work out the story together, and then I would be more in charge of the rules.
Yeah, but then I also wanted to play the game, and I knew that playing the game while also writing the campaign would probably not be very good for me, because you can't be a player and know what's going to happen or what the dungeons are going to be like. So
no, you would. I mean, it would be like you'd be controlling Bentley sometime, Drovo or whatever.
Okay, well, maybe on a further adventures we can do that.
But the thing is, you can't let them make decisions for the group, right? Because it's not fair, because you have knowledge of what's going on and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we contacted our friends here. Lori, at the time, she was running and still is running the Dark Ditties fan page on Facebook.
No. Well, no. I'm running Simon's fan page.
Simon's fan page.
Although it's been quiet because really things haven't been like super busy because just normal everyday life kind of stuff. I mean, as he's had projects, I've passed them along, but been kind of quiet. So if you've sent a message, I really don't have much to say.
And Brant, while he was here, it was nice because he was one other person that had a lot of experience with D&D.
That's right. And Simon narrated the intro to this game.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
After the fall of Midian.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. He did a great job on that thing. I love it. Every time I hear it, it's so much fun. A great intro. And then, Brant left and we got Matt to join us.
Yeah.
And Richard's character has been really, really cool. Has turned the tide in a lot of battles. Has been a really cool character to have around. So, great to have you here, Matt.
It's been great to be here. Just keeps Clive Barker fresh in my mind all the time. I mean, it's hard not to anyways, but with so many other great authors that I've been enjoying over the years, it's nice to have that kind of that set in stone there that every month or 2 months or whatever, we're going to get back into that universe or that collective universe of Clive Barker. Is awesome, man. Just love being here.
Matt, I think I met you from that Facebook group, what was it? The Clive Barker book club, right?
Yeah, we'd messed around with that, tried to get some traction and get folks involved in like a collective reading thing, but it just kind of fell apart after a little bit. Yeah. However, I remember seeing you just through all the different Facebook groups, and a long time ago, I had got the set of the Magica cards, and I had mentioned it to everybody basically on one of the groups in there, and you had responded and said that you had a bunch of them too, and I tried to get you to play the game with me online, and it just never turned into anything. But I saw that in our Facebook history, and it was from like 15 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, and it would be easier to do it now.
Oh, absolutely.
Then. Yeah. With Zoom and everything.
Well, the Roll20 and all that is
I'd really like to do it. Honestly, though, I have one of every card and I don't know how to play it at all.
I know. I don't really like to take them out of the protective cases.
Yeah.
But I got them from this guy in Australia. I can't remember his name. I think it was Sonny, but I've got a couple of different items from him pertaining to Clive Barker and voice come through. So just all these communities that we've been a part of as far as the Clive Barker universe, the Spiral of Friends, Midian, Occupy, all that. It's just been a pleasure.
That Spiral of Friends group was originally just called Clive Barker. But then Clive Barker's people contacted them and said, hey, you can't make a Facebook thing that says just Clive Barker. So he had to change it to Spiral of Friends. And then somebody else came along and made a group called Clive Barker. And nobody said anything to those guys.
Yeah, there's always like a ton of pages that that try to put the name of celebrities on them and whatever. I never really understand the thing about that. Creating a whole bunch of groups like, oh, now you've got a group, but it's got like 10 people in it. And there's another group that has 8,000 people in it. Yeah. Why did you create your group? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know.
That's fine.
And for a while, we used to post all of our episodes in every Clive Barker group. But I kind of thought, I bet there's a lot of people that are in all these groups and they get tired of seeing our posts all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I only post them in the ones that we're admins for, Which,
yeah, it was a lot of work to have to go through and then post our episodes on every single group where nobody else was posting anything, because Facebook groups are not very active nowadays. It's just people just join them and forget because they join so many groups.
Right.
And then Facebook doesn't really give you a notification for every single message, I guess, unless you select that.
I don't know. I feel like there are still a lot of groups that are active. It just depends on if you're looking for them. I'll tell you, like the Books of Horror and Horror Everything community, as well as the Splatterpunk Society that I'm a part of, are constantly posting and tagging and having events and stuff. So I don't know. Groups are still pretty much a big thing for me. But Clive Barker, I feel like, is kind of getting dated at this point, and his relevancy is starting to kind of fall off. Not for me. He's always going to be important to me, but he's just not producing new stuff. So he's just not out there for the new crowd.
Well, it's been a little bit like that since we started this podcast like 14 years ago.
It's definitely niche.
Yeah. Well, and and if people ask, "Oh, you do a podcast? What is it about?" I'm always like, "Do you know who Clive Barker is?" And they go, "No." Okay, well, do you know
Have you ever heard of Hellraiser?
Maybe, but, I don't know.
But we also had Joe and Catalina from Little Spark Films join us on the game. They're not here right now, but they're probably going to join later. And you've made a really interesting campaign because you've created characters that come from the Weave world mythology. And sometimes we have characters that are from Midian. We had some little backdrops on certain parts of the campaign where we go to Midian, we go to that pyramid hell created by Gregory and like down Satan and the Books of Blood story. We visited a lot of different places that have been in Clive Barker stories, especially in the Magica, because that's where our Jericho squad is located. Of course, our Jericho squad is always a bunch of witches that work behind the scenes in kind of a military organization style to protect the Magica from like interdimensional enemies. And that's what we're trying to do.
So, and the idea was, well, what if there was like a unified sort of Clive Barker theory, right? Where everything that happened in the books is real. And then Jericho had to kind of spread out and cover all of that stuff. And so that's kind of what we were thinking. And so, like, Chertovir, your character is a Eurydimek, which people know Eurydimecs because of Pio Pa, but that's like 1 in a million chance that you get a Mistiff, right? Most of them are similar to what Chertovir is.
Yeah, and the Mistiff is someone who appears differently to different people. Like, he can change his form. I don't think the other Eurydimecs can do that. But I thought it was a cool race to choose because it's a mysterious race in the Magica. There's not a lot of them left, and they live in their little kind of Kesprit, which is basically their neighborhood, where they have their own laws and very strict legislation and stuff like that. And they got the ribbon swords, which are cool. Because it's a really thin blade that cuts like nobody's business, but it's like a ribbon, so you can kind of whip it.
You can wear it like a scarf.
Yeah, fun moments, dramatic moments of like killing an enemy. And, when you give the killing blow, it's like, it's always feels good to be like, oh, you took him out. And you're like, yeah, so you're making a little movie in your mind. So that's the best part of D&D, but also you and your brother, Rob, you guys have done an amazing job with Roll20 and D&D Beyond, because Roll20 especially, we get to see the dungeon, right? We get to see the little map. We get to see a little character move around and the other demons are coming in. So there's a certain animation to that. There's a technical beauty to it that now with the internet and these websites makes it come to life a little more,
Rob and I spent about 2.5 hours maybe this weekend.
Wow.
Working on it.
It's a lot of work.
Well, one part we even we'll get to it because it's kind of a secret right now, but one part we actually role played out like a massive battle on Friday night.
All right.
Just to see what would happen instead of just deciding. We thought it'd be more fun to play it out and see, what would happen.
Yeah. I think now our campaign is kind of winding down to the end of the quest, or at least, some sort of end game when it comes to the major boss, because we're about to fight the heart of the Aboriginal, right? Which is this weird structure full of like made out of like people in the middle of the ocean of the First Dominion, and there's going to be Nullionax around, so it's probably going to be a really hard fight. So we'll see how many episodes it takes.
I was going to thank you for giving me one of the best giggling fits of my life, because when I went to go to see the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and they had the scene with the 5 questions with the corpse, I was like, I laughed the loudest in the theater, and nobody could figure out why. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I have lived this scene.
Yes.
It's like, stop asking questions.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So now we have a few more voicemails. Our first one is going to be Erik Van T Holt. And so behind the scenes, Erik Van T Holt has been really big for us. He was a longtime contributor to our Kickstarters and stuff. And so we'll play that one right now.
Hi guys, this is Erik from Amsterdam, long-time listener, fan of the podcast, Patreon. What I wanted to share with you is that you really made me a complete Clive Barker fan. When I started listening to the podcast many years ago, I was already a fan of his books and movies, but I didn't really know his art. But that changed when I listened to the first episode where you discussed the Imaginer books. And after listening to 1 or 2 episodes, I decided to buy one of his books. And then I started reading the book and I really got hooked, and I bought all the other books and re-listened to the shows about Imaginer, and I really came to appreciate his art. And so you can say I'm now also a fan of his art, a complete fan, as I said before, and I have you to thank for that, and I'm very, very grateful. So congratulations on episode 500. It's a really great milestone. And I hope to join you again on one of the Book Clubs of Blood episodes. I enjoyed them as well. So keep up the good work, and hopefully we'll speak again in the near future. Many thanks.
Yay! Thank you, Erik.
Thank you, Erik.
Yeah, and he's been great on our Book Club of Blood. I'd like to get back to those again pretty soon. We've just spent so much time sort of planning for this episode. That the Book Club of Blood we haven't done in a month or so, but we can. Yeah.
Which one is coming up, by the way?
Jacqueline S, I think.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to talk about Jacqueline S, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be something.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's scripts and stuff that we can read for that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Wow. We have another voicemail here from Kamui, who is also a longtime listener and supporter, and so let's play that one.
Hey, Ryan and Jose. It's Kamui from the Discord. My favorite work of Clive's is definitely Lord of Illusions. I really love the blending of magic, noir, and horror in a modern setting. Usually not the kind of thing you see outside of B movies. Also, congratulations on the 500 episodes. That's pretty awesome.
Yay! Thank you, Kamui.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lord of Illusions. It's I think one of his best movies.
I just got this in the mail. The 4K version of Lord of Illusions.
You're making me have to get that too, so we can review that at some point.
You know what, I'm kind of afraid, it's a Shout Factory release. I'm kind of afraid that I won't be able to tell the difference between that and the HD, Blu-ray one.
Yeah. I hear you. I guess my review would focus more on anything that might be different or new. Because,
new features and stuff.
That's right.
Next up, we have a voicemail from David Blair.
Hey, it's been a while.
Yeah, this is our last voicemail.
My name is David Blair. I became a Clive Barker fan back when the first Hellraiser movie came out. And then the sci-fi fiction book club had a Clive Barker offerings. The Inhuman Condition was the first Clive Barker story I ever read. Then I got the Books of Blood. Also became a very big Hellraiser comic book fan of the Epic series back in the early 90s and the Nightbreed comics. I've gotten all his graphic novels over the years, and especially love the Nightbreed series. I was on the original Hellbound webpage back in the 90s. That's where I met Jose. Yeah. And I've just kept in touch with the Clive Barker community through that for the last going on, 30 years now or more. I really like Clive's visions of his world, especially Imagica. I really love that. That's my favorite Clive Barker novel. I like his storytelling and his world building. Mm-hmm. Scarlet Letters I thought was really great too. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I've listened to the podcast here for the last year or so. I've been aware of it. I just never, for whatever reason, listened to it until just about a year ago. Then I started tuning in weekly. I've been fortunate enough to be on it for a couple of times.
And thank you, David Blair.
Thank you.
I think he kind of got cut off, but he was near the end, so he didn't make a second one.
And I'm actually, of all things, serendipity. I was looking at that Clive Barker Revelations page that talks about Occupy Midian, and I was just, while he was talking, I was scrolling through the original message list that Phil and Sarah posted about people who wanted to see the director's cut of Nightbreed. I scrolled through, and one of them says, "My name is David Blair, and I'm from Wisconsin, and I would love to see the director's cut of Nightbreed." So,
yay!
What a serendipity!
Yeah.
But yeah, David. I mean, I've met him many years ago, many years before we started the podcast. We met at the Hellbound Web, where we used to be big Hellraiser fans and discussed all sorts of things about the movie.
And he's been great on our Book Club of Blood episodes.
He was in the Dread episode, right?
Yeah.
That was, I think, the last time we spoke with him. I really have a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you started watching the podcast, and I really appreciate it, David. Let's keep talking, and let's keep bringing you into the podcast to discuss this. Because this is my only time that I have to interact with other Clive Barker fans is when I'm doing the podcast, mostly,
Right.
So that's why it's so important to me.
I think we had final thoughts, but I think I want to get into the fan topics first, and then we'll go to those.
Sure.
So our fan topics, Lucas Ferrero said, "Hi there. Is there any chance of talking about the short story Nightbreed of Chichester and Martin Amond in episode 2 of the box of..." In episode 2.
In Epic.
He's talking about Epic episode issue 2.
Yeah, Epic issue 2.
And the Box of Blood in episode 500. Thanks for the incredible episode, and saludos from Argentina. This is not the same person we were talking about earlier.
The Box of Blood, is that the trading cards that he's talking about?
We won't go in depth into those today, but I think it's a great idea to have an episode about trading cards, and we can have the Box of Blood. There's like Clive Barker cards. Trading cards. There's the Imagica card game.
Right.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah. We could do all of those. And there's probably Hellraiser ones. I don't have them, but I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, I think so.
They're in here somewhere.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I don't own it, so I can't speak for it. But now I'm getting the little bug biting me saying, "Hey, you should go on eBay and see if you can get it."
And I told him I think we did probably talk about the Epic because we went through all the Marvel Epic Nightbreed comics, and I think the individual Epic issues with Nightbreed stories in them, I think we probably did talk about those at that time.
I think so too. So let me check on that, and we'll get back to this. But Lucas, that was a really good idea that you just gave us to do an episode about trading cards. I think we should do that.
And Don Bertram said, might consider a recap of the podcast to date. And he gave us this idea, and I loved it. And I thought, so much different from us having a gigantic out of control Zoom chat, which is what we did the last, couple 100 anniversary episodes.
Yeah. That's why we did it this way, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. That's a great idea.
And Sareth Ney said, 500. Congratulations. Hopefully Night of the Zoopocalypse will be streaming and hear your thoughts on it. Also, see if you can interview the folks that brought Clive back to the cinemas. And so he was really into Night of the Zoopocalypse, and it's just the timing was a little off. When we first posted that, it was like 2 months ago, and so Night of the Zoo Apocalypse has come and gone in theaters. We had an audio commentary about it, and we had a lot of fun watching that. Hopefully it'll come out on a disc, so we can add it to our collections, put it on shelf. But yeah,
that was episode 491.
Yes, right. So we did talk about that.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. And so kind of our final thoughts here, we want to thank our listeners. That's because of you guys. We've been doing this for 13 and a half years. In January, it'll be 14 years. And it's not always easy to think of stuff to talk about every week because, Clive Barker's not releasing his things as quickly as he used to. He's working hard, and it sounds like from what he said, he's got like 30 some things in the works. And so we take things as they come, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's a good way to describe how we approach this every week.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you've been with us since episode 1 or you just found your way through the gates of Leviathan, we thank you. This show it's for the dreamers. It's for the Nightbreed. It's for the storytellers that dare to look behind the curtain. And if there's one thing about Clive Barker stories, is that they're not just stories, they're home.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for a lot of people. It's true for me. And I really appreciate, I think it's a nice milestone to reach episode 500. I don't know how much longer we're going to continue doing this, but it's still fun for me to do this with you, Ryan. It's still fun, even though, it takes a lot of time, but this is what we do it for. This is like, we do it because we love this stuff. We want to share our love with the rest of the world. We want to meet other people. And we've had the chance to get to meet people that I never thought I'd be able to have a conversation ever. Like me as a kid growing up in Portugal, watching movies on the TV, and now I'm talking to the people who directed them.
I know.
And the people who acted in them. I've had the chance to shake their hand, to hug them.
Yeah.
I've had the chance
Ann Bobby. I was like, really? I get to talk to Ann Bobby? This is insane.
I know.
I want to go back in time and talk to 17-year-old Ryan and say, you're going to get to talk to her and meet her in person and stuff.
Yeah.
And she will write an introduction to your book.
We've come pretty far. And there's been a bunch of things that I'm really proud that we've done. Not just being part of Occupy Midian, but I never thought we'd ever have a book out. And, thank you very much to Raul in Spain for all the help that he did transcribing this book.
And Rob Ridenauer, he did a bunch of it too.
Of course, Robbie, get in touch, man. Let us know how you're doing.
And so I guess we can probably announce this here that we're planning to do, now that this episode is kind of going to be in the can, we're planning to do a second printing. And one thing is there are a few, corrections that we got from some of our contributors, but a big one is the price, because we priced it originally from a Kickstarter. It's like PBS tote bag price, right? It's like, this is a price to help you contribute to the podcast. And then when we first put it on Amazon, we wanted to honor that. And for all those people that paid that much for it way back in 2017, we didn't want to make them feel like they were being ripped off. And so we've kept it at that same price. But when we do the second edition, I want to drastically reduce the price on the second edition. I'm thinking maybe $25, something like that.
We'll do a revised edition.
And maybe we can even, you had mentioned doing a paperback. I mean, I'm not a fan of paperbacks, but I'm not the only person here to, would be interested. So we could do that too. We can do both of those things.
I do think that this looks much better as a hardcover. I know I brought up the idea of the paperback. Maybe in the future, maybe if there's a second volume, then we can put this one out as a paperback at that time. We've got so much stuff since all the stuff that we transcribed for this. Now that definitely a revised edition is in the works. Yeah, because there were parts of this book that I wasn't super happy the way they were formatted. And unfortunately, there's always things that escape proofreading And but yeah, that would be good to have a second edition revised, and, cheaper.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get that out this year. I mean, it's July now. July 4th as we're recording this. One last thing I wanted to kind of throw in here, because I feel like this is kind of a child of ours, right? And I had Joel at the same time we started this podcast. He has grown up and he's the same age as the podcast. He's 13 and a half years old. And so I put together, watch out for this as after the final outro stuff and the credits. And he says, thanks for listening. Watch for that. I'm going to put a little Easter egg there. And it's kind of like Joel growing up with the podcast. And so you can see all the different times he helped out with the Kickstarter and stuff like that. And if I can talk him into contributing to something for the end here, his current age, that now he's writing video games. The Unity engine. He's doing 3D modeling and with Blender, and he's making and he's writing code for video games. He wants to make a horror video game that's set in a McDonald's play place.
Oh, that's amazing.
You get stuck in there and you can't escape. And I've seen a whole bunch of it already.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Unity is free, right? So you can use that.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I made a text adventure called Blah's World. In GW Basic.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I never made a game, but I've made levels for games. But that's really cool that Joel's doing that. Maybe he'll grow up to become a programmer or make video games. That would be terrific.
It seems like it. His favorite video games are more like indie kind of stuff instead of like the big, graphics powerhouse sort of things.
Yeah. Well, that's how it starts.
Yeah. So, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.